talk show here on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
I had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything, but, seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now, a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Welcome to UFO Undercover, with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great evening, great morning, great afternoon, wherever you are on our beautiful blue planet. I'm Joe Montaldo, host of UFO Undercover. Tonight's guest is going to be Jim Sparks. Before we get started, a couple of things. This is going to be a pre-record, so anybody who's catching us tonight, it is Friday night, July 8th. It's about 12:30 in the morning, or 12:30 a.m. You can catch the show. We are going to allow for audience participation in the show this evening. So if you're in the virtual auditorium, or if you have the call-in number, which is 504-273-7379, you can call right in and get involved. But probably about half hour, 45 minutes, and we'll open up the lines. Maybe a little bit sooner. Got to do a little catching up with Jim. I haven't talked to him in a while, see what he's up to. So, Jim, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm doing all right.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to keep up with this, you can pop over to the iCar site or the Paranormal Radio site. On the right-hand side, you're going to see The Keepers. Click on it. It takes you right to the book, right to his main website as well. And I'll actually take you to the site. You can do a perusing around. If you haven't read the book, you should get it. There's a lot of good information in there tonight. And if you were listening to an earlier interview this evening with Daryl Sims, you'll notice there are some parallels in some of the stuff between Jim Sparks and Daryl Sims. Now, I'm not going to say they're even close to identical because they're not. But it's like all the contactees or abductees or whatever you want to be called these days. There are some similarities that run concurrent with all of them, at least so far. Oh, Jim, first question, man, before we even go anywhere else. How often does ET call you by your name?
Say that again?
Have you ever had the extraterrestrials call you by your name?
Wow, what a question. Let me ponder on that one a little bit.
Take your time.
I can't think right off the top of my head. I can't think off the top. I can't think of a time, really. No.
All right. Now you make 362 contactees that I've asked this to in less than 2 months. All of them said no. It's a weird thing we just found out.
That is something, man.
I know, it's one of them weird things. You can feel free to use it. It's we're learning a lot, like the blood type studies, but I'm gonna get into with all of that. First off, you still in Aussie land?
Yeah, sure am. It's the dead of winter. About 1:45 in the afternoon. And actually, it's going to get a little colder in the next few weeks. That'll really, really be the dead of winter. So, Merry Christmas.
For me, I love talking to everybody in Australia and New Zealand because it's like time traveling for me. Sorry about that, guys. It's kind of like time traveling for me. You know, last time I talked to Suzanne Hansen, we're always talking on different days. I'm always a day behind her. See, like today, me and you are on the same day now because it's July 9th now. But earlier when you called, it was still 8th for me and the 9th. It's always just weird to me out a little bit.
That's it. Yep, I always have to reconsider my thinking all the time. No, go ahead, please.
I know. What I was going to say is now, for you, I mean, we've talked over the years quite often and quite a lot, actually. I think we've got like 10 or 12 hours of archives. Somebody was making a comment about it the other day. Cause I'm getting ready to do sections with the different people who I've done archives with numerous over the years so that people can come listen to the progression. The reason I'm bringing this up, ladies and gentlemen, is because I'm a real stickler. I'll tell you this. I expect if I ask you a question in 2000 and I ask you a question again in 2011, I really expect to hear you tell me the same thing. I mean, I'm not talking about research now, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about experiences. I really expect to hear that same thing repeated to me. So far, every time I've asked him a question that I've asked him before, I got a similar response. Now, there's always new stuff going on in these cases, and there's always more stuff involved in these cases. And I know for people, because this is interview 14 in this segment of contactees, and there's been a wealth of information doled out. And I just like to make the differences so people understand what it is we're doing and where we're going and not to get confused. Now, I'm going to ask you this like I always do. If you could make all this go away and stop, would you?
No. Did you just ask me if I could make all this contact stop? Is that what your question was?
Well, if you could make all of this go away and stop, would you? If you could just make it go out of your life in a way, would you do that?
I wouldn't trade it for the world. So the answer is absolutely not.
That amazes me. Go ahead.
Well, what comes to mind first off, what comes to mind is the fact that I have some insight that I can share with how important it is for us to evolve. And as you probably know, most abductees tell you, we don't see things the same way anymore. Anytime any of this touches any of us, even people around us that aren't even abducted, once they hear some of the information that we have to share and say, things you can't look at things the same anymore. You look back at what mankind is, humankind, and you see where we're going wrong. It's clearer to see, and then you see a path where we can correct it, and most importantly, evolve to join the galactic neighborhood. And it's a wondrous world. So no, I can't see any reason to ever want to turn it back. Now, if you asked me this question the first 6 years, yeah, because I did everything I could to destroy these things. I wanted to kill them. And I had my chance one time, and I didn't. So, yeah, the first 6 years I would say, yeah, but now, no, there's no way. It's just something I had to go through to have me understand them better and vice versa. But no, I wouldn't.
And, most of the people I talk to, most of the contactees I talk to say, now, the abductees don't. And something we stumbled across this year, during this special, a matter of fact, we brought on 7 UK contactees, I call them. Oh no, they're abductees. And they're like, I don't know if you remember like the 1970s classic alien abduction. This is what it is. And it's a fluke because all of Europe is more in the contact styles that you and I and other people talk about these days. But this reminds me of something just classically out of like the 1970s. It's almost like it's a control group study or something.
And in what respect?
Well, okay, let's look at it. In France, we got a big group of contactees / abductees, but they're contactees. They're openly having contact. They know what's going on. They're dealing with it progressively. But not in the UK.
Yes,
in these 2 particular groups we're dealing with, they're pissed. They're seriously pissed. If they could stop it, they would. If they could snap the little gray's neck, they would in a heartbeat. This reminds me of stuff I used to hear in the late 70s, early 80s. Of contactees who were just so mad all the time that it was out of control. It's just a big group of them over there. And I don't know why right there on the island, because all of Europe, we're not getting these reports. We're not really getting these reports out of the United States anymore. And not so much out of anywhere else but there. It just seems like, they're like, I guess a control group. I don't know what else to call them because they're standing out like a sore thumb.
Well, maybe the early stages or early phases for those people out there. I'm just, yeah. So they're going through that rigmarole that we all did in the beginning, or, I know I did, and make sense out of this stuff. Because after all, they're not human. And so they're interacting with human beings, and that contact is difficult.
It's interesting because it is hard to deal with, to understand with, come to terms with. Over the years, talking to you and others, I'm always thinking to myself, do we have one of these syndromes, because we've been beat down and dragged around and had the good cop, bad cop, reward program, punishment program. Did they just finally break us? But then after talking to you and a few others, I don't think that's what it is. I really feel like, I don't feel like you're a broke person. You feel like you're ready to keep going and to learn and expand.
I am. Yeah. It's, again, it's just an interaction that has specified rules in a sense that aren't common to us, socially speaking. And once you get accustomed to them, then your eyes open up and you can start absorbing what they have to say and what they're all about. And that's where I am today, and that's where I believe some of the people you're talking about are.
And I agree. Now, I'm thinking about this. UFO in California, right?
Yeah, that's right. The symposium, the International Symposium. I'll be out there. Goes from, let's see, let me get the dates right. It ends on the 31st, and so that's on a Sunday, and then it goes through on the Saturday the 30th, and starts on a Friday the 29th. So it'll be from the 29th to the 31st out in Irvine, California.
Yeah, no, Rich Dolan's going to be there too.
Yeah, the Hyatt Regency. Yeah, Hyatt Regency.
Oh, nice. I wish I was there.
Yeah, so that's going to be, I think that's going to be a good one because we've got some really good speakers, but the theme is pretty cool, which is, time travel. Yeah. And, yeah, and so it's you got people who are science minded, you got people who are researchers, you have me who are as an experiencer, and it's a conglomerate of individuals putting all their senses together to come up with what that's all about, or try to get a finger on it, figure it out. So my talk, lecture, whatever you want to call it's going to be time travel is a fact. So I'll be out with experiences that seemingly put it together as so. So I think that it's going to be a pretty interesting conference.
Well, when I heard the theme of time travel, I was kind of like, well, this sounds interesting. Then I was talking with Karen Dolan, and she was giving me a rundown on the guests because she was asking if we were going this year. And I was listening to the guest list, and it's a pretty good guest list. And I'm thinking, man, it's going to be a pretty good conference. But I'll be listening for all of y'all to find it. I'll give reports. I'll be calling everybody.
I'm sure.
It's anyway, getting back to what I was saying. I'll be calling everybody for reports. I'm hoping that one of the hosts will be out there live so they can go around and harass everybody. One of the nice things about having a station organization, occasionally we get people out there. Now, go ahead, guys.
No, you go. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you, where do you feel like this is going to take you in the future?
Well, there's just many challenges ahead. I keep reflecting on the human condition, which is pretty stubborn. It's resistant to change. It's resistance to change. And, they laid out a roadmap, in my perspective, in my area or in my field, in order for change to take place, and I've been barking the same thing now for the last several years, is there has to be, things have to be brought out to the table freely. And the issue at hand is the people that have the secrets and they know what's going on don't want to come forward because they're in fear of the fact that they can get hurt. And you've heard me say this before, the black op people, the top secret people, whatever organizations you want to call them, have committed crimes against humanity to keep this stuff secret. And at the same time, they're not just total monsters. They're not at all, actually. There may be a few individuals there that can be perceived as such, but, there's a lot at stake, when you bring things out like this. There's defenses centered around the new technologies and the technical exchanges. And bad people get their hands on that stuff, we're all in a lot of trouble. But there's too many good things that can bring this planet forward and change the face of it like we've never seen it before. The energy aspect of it. There's the technology to remove toxins out of the sea in a matter of months, out of the atmosphere, out of the soil. The longevity aspect. I'm in love with the fact that if we could finally evolve, we can stop dying. And those secrets are there. And that's a big key. And I like to come out and I bring this stuff forward about not dying because I think it's fascinating and it can be fun. Because if all at once, most of us, if all at once the human species didn't pass away anymore, think of the changes that would take place. Days, months, and years would go by and you'd just be absorbing more and more knowledge all the time. Without the way it is today, passing it on and your siblings or just get a little bit of information and then by the time they figure it out, they pass away and on it goes. So it's fantastic health, it's clarity of mind, technically enhanced, a perspective that we've never had before, a vigor and a zeal for living like you can't imagine, and you live like that moment by moment and you just don't die. You're not relying on any other source. To bring you there, it's the fact of science that it can be done. So again, in their eyes, they say come up with an amnesty bill. You've heard me talk about this before, Joe, and I'm sure most of your listeners that follow me anyway or heard me speak, from experience. Get an amnesty bill out there, particularly in the United States because it's strong. It's powerful enough to keep it intact. And I'm glad it's my country. That's the way I see it, at least. And get an amnesty bill out there where these guys can come forward, whoever it may be, without concerning themselves with being hurt by this whole thing. And of course, things are done that were not nice, and for the last 40 to 60 years, and criminal charges will be brought, and it's not to be done for spiritual reasons. It's done to be for practical reasons. You're not forgiving and forgetting for spiritual reasons. You're forgiving and forgetting for practical reasons, so they have an avenue to bring these things out. So that's always the main thing, the main push with them.
Well, that's a good push.
Yeah, well, they're claiming also, I don't claim to embrace, you've heard me say this before, alien culture, and I believe everything you say. I have a healthy skepticism. But according to them, that deals were made, deals were struck, arrangements were made over a certain aspect of time, technologies were given, and we turned around and didn't honor any of it. And then they're getting a bad rap for it. So, to put it simply.
Well, they do. I try to get these contactees all the time to at least kind of stand up for themselves, and at least that way, when it comes time for amnesty or starting pushing people for amnesty, they'll get involved. Yeah, because I noticed Stephen Gassett did the what was it called again? The Disclosure Day.
Yeah, disclosure. Yeah.
Well, he has the July as Disclosure Day.
Verbiage isn't in my mind, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, I seen it the other day, but I haven't talked to him yet. I was kind of like, what is this? It's hard to me because I know we need some kind of amnesty to let people come out and talk about the aliens. I know that's not enough to prove ET exists. Even the bad part is Obama could come out and get on TV tomorrow and say, hey, the Greys probed me, and everybody get chuckling and go on. For some reason, this country here is thick-headed. And I know we're not. I know we're an open-minded country, but when it comes to this particular topic, they seem to be thick-headed because the evidence is raining down out of the sky, and they're still stepping over it, or stepping around it, or ignoring it. And it's not like the old days when nobody talked about this or it didn't make mainstream. It does make mainstream. People talk about it. I've seen an influx of young people getting involved. And still yet nobody wants. It's like you can talk about it all you want. There's not all that hate anymore when you're talking about it. You can see it on mainstream. It's acceptable to bring up at work and talking, the chase goes or chase your hose. It's acceptable, but still, for some reason, tell me what you think about this, Jen. Maybe the country has accepted it without disclosure. Because they don't seem to be enough interest.
Well, it's kind of like jumping on the bandwagon. It's a momentum that needs to be built. It's a tough thing to do. I tried very hard to put it together, and I came very close at times, meeting it face on, with a select group of people who are willing to spend the time and money with their limited resources to make this thing come to fruition. And we even got to the point where we had a lobbyist ready to go. And everything was out front, and everything was, this was a few years back, but everything was up front, and everything was face on. And, it all came down to the same thing, money. We just, bottom line was we didn't have the money. So the way I see it, and the way most of us see it, the minds that I was with, is that it's a collective. And I think they see it the same way too. And it's a collective of people, and you build momentum, and they put their resources and funds in. There's credible people who know credible people, who know more credible people, who know people with power, who make changes. And you put this law into effect. If there's an avenue for these individuals or groups or whatever to be able to come out without being afraid. But I think, too, I'm seeing that it probably has to be done or can be done in a very silent way instead of making public headlines. This is a thing we're exploring, which is you get a bill in there without making a lot of noise. And it's almost like a silly factor. You may remember this, to give you an example of what I mean. The government official response is that these things don't exist, and if you say they do, you're either insane or you're a liar or you're making up a story or whatever the case may be. But yet there was a law in effect for many years that said that if you came upon a UFO or an unidentified flying object and you got so many feet within it, close to it, so many feet close to it, then you were subject to, a year in jail and, a $10,000 fine. And if you make contact with the occupants, that it was even more severe penalties. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. That was, I don't know, using the 12.
It was a long, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, I used to know the NASA law, the actual law. I can't think of it right offhand, but it's like Article 12, 14, and it ran from, I think, 1964 to like 1998 or 96, somewhere right around there, and it was illegal. You couldn't make contact.
Oh, yeah. It definitely was. So it was federal. It wasn't, kidding around. It wasn't a local state thing. And yet, the same feds will come around and say, no, these things don't exist. And why do they have the law? The point is, it was there, and it was kind of a silent law, and it existed. So on the same, by the way, they did lift that law no longer exists, is my understanding. So there was enough barking on it that they took it away. But going back to the point of this amnesty bill, if you put it in as silently as they did, in a sense, this is just something we're pondering. You put it in silently, the avenue is there, and the whole world is, the whole government and the whole country and everybody else isn't there to balk at it. It exists. So here you have this law that's not well known, and it protects these people. So I think the key, according to them, this is how I've been advised. I mean, all the years that I've had these experiences, they still point to this same thing, which is create this bill or create this law. I think first on the national level, coming from us, because that's the only way I really know to go, maybe globally as it goes, where these people can come forward and they can do it any way they want without getting hurt. And then we can move along with the thing.
Well, that would be nice. That would be really nice. Because frankly, we need to do something. It's at a point now that you've got enough people that want to come forward that can't. And then I don't know how much. Yeah.
You don't know how much what?
Well, I don't know how much is it. Well, I forgot that. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
Actually, the words garbled here. So would you repeat that?
Okay, there we go. Let me get this better. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't know how much what? That's what. Pardon me?
I just got to remember not to be moving my phone. I'm so used to wearing a headset when I'm talking that I forget sometimes that I'm using a phone right now. So I got to remember to keep it way up along. Sorry, but that's my phone. That's just one of them things.
That's no doubt.
I was thinking that there's got to be a way to force some of this. Recently, I'm not going to mention names, but recently over the last 3 months, I've met some people that work for Boeing. I've met some people that work for NASA. And they're not, they have high clearances and they know quite a bit. And my clearance is still high, so at least they're willing to talk to me. It's nothing that'll ever get made public or anything, but it's interesting to hear what they're working on, what's up. There's a guy I know that works for Boeing. He's a nice guy. He's been with them 26, 27 years. And he was going through a list of what I would consider to be conventional but unconventional aircraft. And he said they're very advanced. He said he hasn't seen anything in there that he wouldn't consider to be natural progression. So I asked him bluntly. I said, well, dude, are there projects you're not privy to? And he's like, well, yeah. I said, how many? He said, more than I can count. I said, okay. And then after that, he's walking around scratching his head like, oh, wow. It was almost like the light bulb popped onto his head.
Yeah, right.
The whole time he was walking around ignorant, and when I said that, he was just like, okay, well, damn. This is one of them things. Now, since you've been in Aussie land, have you been having contact?
It's really quiet here. I'm of the notion, in my travels, that they kind of like hotbed places. They really like to show up where there's a lot of dense population, and so it's been kind of a reprieve in a sense for me. It's not really happening that way here at all as it happens in the States. And even before I moved out to Nevada, I was in Florida, and it was pretty frequent with me. But when I moved out to Nevada, it like doubled. Something about that state, just outside of Las Vegas and just the state itself, I guess you could say Area 51, there's a lot of goings on over there, and there's a lot of action. I mean, I know that these beings, have different campaigns and agendas, and, they got the agenda of collecting seeds, they got the agenda of collecting life forms, they got the agenda of preserving life, they got the agenda of, I can go on with what they're doing to the human beings that, because I've eyewitnessed this, that have actually were never born or raised on the earth. They collected the seeds and they were born and raised in another world. And They're just like us. They're human beings, and they bring them down. This is going to sound like Star Trek, but I know it's to be so. They bring them down to good old Mother Earth for a time period to acquaint them with their past and their roots and where they come from. And it's fascinating to see these people. They're just like you and me, but they're astute, they're intelligent, but they don't have any of the fears. They don't have any of the paranoia. The only where they're cautious and careful is they allow them to go into a group settings. I mean, they can even be in a restaurant. They can be in a tourist attraction, just like tourists. And, you know, places like that, in my experience, just get more action. So it's pretty neat what goes on behind the scenes that has been revealed to me over the recent years. And that's, you know, where relative to where my contact is.
Well, I think when you reach that level,
pardon me?
Saying usually when you reach a certain level with them, what we call them keepers, but whatever anybody wants to call them, once you reach a certain level, they tend to let you learn a lot more. They let you learn a lot more. They let you see a lot more. It's almost, in some ways, they're wanting to reassure that, hey, look, we're going to let you see this. You're not crazy. Yeah, you are learning stuff, and we're all going to help you out with stuff, but yes, we do expect something in return.
Well, I mean, I always know, like, just to cite an example, you know, they expect something in return. Yeah, you got it. We got to come forward. We got to do it ourselves. We can't rely on anything. We can't rely on them fully. We got to bring ourselves to a point where we get it's not quite an equilibrium, but it's where it's a meeting point where it works. And we can't be royally dependent on them doing these things for us. A lot of us cry out and say, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They've been through that routine with the human race. They've been around for 10,000, maybe hundreds of thousands of years, maybe even longer, and they know our nature. So we have to bring ourselves to a point first. But just to cite an example, I was in where was I? I was in a major hotel, and it was in Las Vegas. And I was exiting the hotel, and I know when either time travelers or non-human intelligent beings are in the vicinity and they want to make contact. My heart starts to race, my spine stiffens, I get a sensation, I get an extreme discomfort, but I'm not afraid of this feeling. Because I've had to deal with this for years, so it's just part of the practice of what it's like when they're around, or to let you know. Anyway, as I was making my exit out of this place and walking through the crowd, I got the telepathic message from one of them, which in this case was an Earth person, a time traveler, well, probably about 400 or 500 years from the future, saying that he would be meeting with me outside. And pretty exciting. I mean, it's really exciting. So, as I started walking towards the exit this hotel, where the valet would be, where you park the car at valet, I got this extreme sense of health and vigor like I never had in my life. As I took each breath, and exhaled each breath, I was going, yes. Like it was the most wonderful feeling that there possibly could be to be alive. And each second was this euphoric understanding of yourself, and you're feeling your body like you never did before. And it's like almost like a Superman feeling. As I kept heading towards the valet, my mind started clearing and the cobwebs went away, and my thoughts were super inflated or super enhanced, like they had never been before. And I had a greater grasp of my surroundings. I had a grasp of what was going on in the world. I understood a lot more, and all this was happening within just a few seconds. And when I came out to the back door, and there he was to greet me, he finally said, "How you doing?" Just like that, with that same exuberance. And I said, "I'm fine." And Joe and listeners, I understood more than I ever did in my life, and he also shared with me, this is only going to last for a few seconds because this is where we'll go when we evolve. And so I stepped out in the back. This was in Nevada. And he says to me, he says, he goes, and he's talking. He's telepathic and he's verbal. So we become fully telepathic, by the way. And that's even in the near future, within a few hundred years, fully telepathic. Or we can be verbal, whatever we want to be. So he was both back and forth. He says, I like it here in this part of the country. He says, we could sure use we could sure use more rain. We could sure use more rain here. And when he said that, in my mind, I could see all the weather patterns in Nevada. I could see them around the country. I could see them halfway around the globe. My mind was technically enhanced, and I could see what it would take to change weather patterns to bring more weather to rain. And then as I looked at it, I went, no, that won't work, because we have to take from this place, take from that place, and there would be rain deprived, and it would ruin everything. And I verbalized it, and he goes, that's right. And our interaction was short. I've had a few of these that I haven't really come public with until lately, practically hardly at all. And so I'm getting more comfortable with where I'm at with this thing and where people are. So it's food. It's going to be a problem. I waited a few years before I talk about the meat. And it's an excitement in me to keep you going. And anyway, I knew that in a few seconds I was going to lose this ability. And I wasn't sad about it, because I knew I was just gifted at that time. And then when he said it's time to go, or I got to go, I said, yes, I know. I got in my car, and as I pulled out to the intersection to turn, it started to narrow, go away, that my sphere of thought started to become more tunnel vision, as we are. And by the time I started going down the road, it went away. But the point is, if we can inevitably cross that line, it's just at that stage, the way you'll feel, the way you see things, the way you understand things, your health, your mind, and you're not concerned about all the trivial stuff that we are. It's pretty fantastic.
It is, actually.
Yeah. And I want us to go there. Who wouldn't? I'd like to see all of us there, because even the silliest would have a better understanding to see why they're silly.
Well, yeah, it's a shame the way it fades out like that. Because, I've heard people talk about other stuff that they're being showed, or that they're being let to understand. Maybe I kind of like a reward. I hate to say it any other way, but it's kind of like a reward. And but it's always fleeting. There's always a sense of it left behind, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
To the contactees that listen, that may make sense to y'all, but to everybody else that's listening, you're probably going, these guys have lost their mind. But it is, it's like a residue is left behind. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it.
Oh, you mean, is there a residual?
Yeah, well, it's
left
like
behind?
When the memory's fading, it seems to leave like a residue behind, like a shadow of what the actual experience was.
Well, you mean in retrospect to the one I just shared, or in general?
Yeah, but I mean, experience is sort of like those, because I've heard other people kind of describe what you were just describing, and they always tell me it's very fleeting. It's they can feel it, and it's intense when they can feel it, but when it's gone, it's gone. But there's enough left behind that they know it happened, and they know it was good. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And interestingly enough, what I understood, and I like to share this, was the fact that I knew it would be gone, and I wasn't sad about it, because I knew we weren't ready yet.
Yeah,
we're not there yet. It's not something just a few of us get to have. It's something that all of us have to have, and it's something that we all need in order to progress, in order to evolve, in order to be part of what they are. But we are, and they are. I don't ever see it as we join forces, in a sense, to the point where we're intermingling all the time, because actually you're going to find that the human race is special, and that once we evolve past the barbarianism, that we are, the barbarians that we can be, I should say, we're going to look at ourselves as separatists, yet part of that union, but we're going to enjoy more what we are, and we're going to be less concerned with what they are, because we're going to know everything about them, because they are what they are, which is classified as not human beings. And so you'll be more interested in who we are. At least that's the way I'm seeing it now. So all that'll be gone, and then it's just better times ahead. We just got to cross that line. We got to get this stuff out. And they're hoarding it for different reasons. Yeah.
It's like I said, it's just getting a hold of them and make them pay attention. That's why I call them sheeples, because they just get off, see a little shiny thing and they go wandering off. And like, and then you shake the little thing and they come wandering back. And of course, and there's another
it's, we're emotional beings and we can't help it, that we're human. It's a good thing and it could be a bad thing. And we get excited about things and then we tend to forget about it once the excitement goes. So sometimes we don't stay focused long enough. Whereas, I'm not being critical here. I'm just saying this is the stages that from experience where I see they're at and where we're at. And they have an incredible ability. Now I'm talking about us in the future, an incredible ability to stay focused until the job is done. Relentlessly stay focused and stay disciplined until the job is done. And if you forgo the fact that forgo dying, then there's all the time in the world, and it makes interaction with each other a whole new meaning, a whole different philosophy of relationships, interactions, see things. Having time to do all the things that you wish you could do, and exploring those things to the fullest, and having the ability in the mind to take all that data, conceptualize it, and not just the way normally, but the way we don't do now, and keep it there. And then the mind just knows more and more and more of what to do. And it's just a better way. Another example, so Jim Sparks is coming out with some things that he doesn't talk about normally, because my philosophy has always been, and I stuck to it pretty good, is that whenever a lot of these things take place, there's no urgency for me to bring it forward right away, because I like for the trail to run cold. Because when you say, hey, I was at this place and this happened, and people might want to come there to check it out themselves, and all these kind of things, or they started hitting you up with all these questions, which I don't mind, but I'm still exploring these areas myself, and I'm trying to understand it, and I like to understand as much as I can before I speak publicly about these things. And another exciting interaction, so when people say, gee, Jim, what's the latest in abductions, or what's the latest in contacts, these are the things I'm going to start to talk about now. The things, another perfect example was a gentleman, again, a male time traveler, sounded fully American to me, so I'm presuming he spoke the English that we do. And he, when we came across each other, anyway, it's a bit unsettling, but it was so cool. He was gaming me, and I knew he was gaming me, so I gamed him back, and he said to me, what's your name? And I made up some name. And he goes, that's not your name. No, I don't know this guy. He's a stranger. Let's bear it in mind. He says, no. He says, your name's Jim Sparks. And then we both chuckled. And he said to me, he's going to show me the technical enhancements of the technology of the future that we'll possess. And so he said to me, he says, get me a piece of paper and 2 pens. And now I kind of see this, Joe, and everybody that's listening, like, what does he want? Why does this guy, from the future, a few hundred years from now, why does he want a piece of paper and 2 pens? And I go, and anyway, I round up a piece of paper and 2 pens, and a sheet of paper and 2 pens, and I give it to him. And he takes his left hand, at the top of the paper holding the pen, and he takes his right hand at the bottom of the paper holding the pen. And so his right hand is, if you can see a sheet of paper on the table, is to the far right of the corner of the page, and his left hand is at the top. And he proceeds, both with his left and right hand, proceeds with both his left and right hand to write my name in cursive writing, forward with the left hand, and backwards with the right hand at the same time. And he's doing this rhythmically. And then when it reaches both sides of the paper, he writes the name upside down and in reverse on both sides at the same time. And then he turns to me, and he's not even looking at the sheet, and started quoting tax code from the late 1800s to the present. Picture this one. What does that say to you?
Well, I mean,
what does that say?
Just that it can go back and forth at the same time says quite a bit.
Yeah, upside down and reverse, and then to be able to have a, yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty exciting.
Serious IQ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Higher than ours.
Brain capacity, yeah.
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 There's a lot of that stuff been getting reported lately. Just some weird stuff been going on too. I don't like calling it end time stuff because it's not end time stuff. It's more like preparation for end time. I don't know what else to call it. It's been just weird, though. It really has. There's been a lot of stuff like that. So, I mean, did you just popped out of nowhere, or you just mind your own business and poof?
Well, let's go into something that's going to sound like sci-fi, but I know it's not sci-fi.
Well, that's cool. That's an alien, so everything's sci-fi.
Yeah, but they've got the ability, the technical scientific ability to enter in and out of other dimensions. Now, I was just talking, I think you know this over all the years, that, a lot of us sense it or know it for a fact. They've got the ability to be invisible. They have the ability to manipulate matter, so they can pop in a sense. Particularly when you're talking about traveling time and their grasp of how they contort space and time, to make it work for them. And so me, anyone could be anywhere, and you'll get, it's always telepathic at first. In this case, I was sitting down somewhere, I was eating. And in this case, when he came into the room, he asked my permission. Now, look, you got to see this. So here you are in this room. You don't know this person from Adam's house cat. And you're sitting in the room, and you get this telepathic message, voice in your mind saying, may I join you? And I turn my head, and I see a guy coming in the door that I don't know, and I'm sitting there at my own private place, and I telepathically respond, say, sure, it's okay. And then this person just walks in between the tables and comes up there and he sits down. That's not a normal thing, right? When you're eating dinner, no one's just going to come to where you're sitting, and you see the scene?
Yeah,
so that's,
excuse me. Would have been. I would have excuse me. Who the hell are you? Why are you sitting there?
Exactly. And then he proceeded to, he was a bit jovial. Yeah, I'm going to enter a territory that I was going to hesitate to talk about, but I guess I don't mind it so much because he was a bit clumsy too. When we sat there, I had a beer. I was drinking a beer, and he said to me, "How much are the beers?" Well, they had a special going on at this place I was eating at. They were $1 that night, and I told him telepathically, it's $1. I said, so go up to the bar there and in the restaurant and get yourself a beer. So he gets up, and I can see what he's doing, and he pulls out what looks like a billfold, and when he opened it, it was like a file cabinet in this thing, and he was thumbing through it, and these pages were flipping, and he stopped, and then he reaches in and he pulls out a $1 bill from our period, about the size, he had it folded tight, about the size of like 25% of the normal size of the bill, or maybe anywhere from 12.5% to 25% off the top of my head. And it's folded tight, and he neatly unwraps it, and then he takes it and he puts it in front of his face, and he looks at the back of it, and he looks at the front of it. In my opinion, I think he was checking the date. And of course, he hands the lady the this dollar bill behind the counter to purchase his beer. And what was really unique too, I mean, these are special moments, Joe, and whoever's listening. And what was really unique was when he was flipping through the thing that was like a file cabinet. There were many multitude colored bills in there from God knows what time period, God knows what. And you can see all the different colors of these notes, you know. But he knew exactly where to stop to pull out the dollar. But it was he was like almost out in the open completely with it, even though she really couldn't see what he was doing, but I could see what he was doing from my point of view. And then he proceeds to make his purchase, and he sat down. And as I recall, I don't even think he drank much of it anyway. Just took a few sips. I think he just did it to do it. And then he went on. He went on with that game, and that I just went over just to show where we're going to go. And it was like, all right, nice to see you, nice to see you. I knew he would go, and I know so much because I've learned over the years that when you're in these situations, don't ask questions.
Pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. Just relish every second until they're gone.
You have to. When you have an encounter like one of these, and I've talked to other people about this, they've been places, or all of a sudden they'll be somewhere and they have just slightly out of time and phase, and there's someone there, but they don't think it's an alien, but seems to be having some kind of weird telepathic or empathic interaction with. And they experience a lot in that moment, but it's really confusing sometimes because there seems to be an emotional overlay or something. I don't know if it's them or the contactee, but it seems to be there. So I'm not even sure what that is, to be honest with you. It's a strange little thing we've been running across. What color are your eyes, man? Give it up. What color are your eyes?
I'm kind of a funny person. When it comes to certain aspects of things, I just couldn't really pay attention. I didn't see anything that was bizarre. That's the best way I can answer it. I can't, I can tell you this. I don't remember blue eyes and I don't remember green eyes. So take it from there.
Well, no, I meant your eyes. I meant yours.
My eyes?
Yeah.
My eyes are,
yours.
I'm pretty plain. They're brown.
Okay. Well, see, it's for the blood type study thing and the eye chart. All the contactees that were like 2,800 or 3,000 responded now. And we're checking blood types and eye colors. A couple other things.
How interesting.
Well, it's been, what type, if you mind to ask, because I know some people don't like to tell me, but they don't like to say on the air.
I don't mind. I just don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, Jim, you need to know that.
I can remember things in exactly details, and at times certain things I'm funny about. I don't have the memory of a peep. So I know I had that data at one time, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't need to know. If you don't get sick, you don't go to the hospital, or if you're not in the military, most of the time you don't need to know. It's kind of interesting. But no, there's been a specific group of bloods. It's all types of blood get abducted, and all eye colors get abducted. But what we freaked out on is the bloods that are the rarest, and the eye color that's the rarest, is what's being abducted the most.
Is that a fact? Wow.
A fact, too. And now we got the data to back it up. Before, I used to talk about it because we always knew the O negatives and the green eyes were high in contactees. And since O negatives are only 7% of the world population, they shouldn't make up 40% of the contactees. Altogether, the negative, the RH negatives, only make up 15% of the world's population, but make up 63% of the contactees. That's wild, man.
What made up 3%?
No, 63%.
Oh, was
the negative, the RH negative? Yeah, makes up 63% of the contactees, but only makes up 15% of the world's population have RH negative. So it's wild,
man. That's wow.
And so far, 50% of everybody who's responded has green or hazel eye, which green eyes are a mutation. So is O negative blood. I mean, so is RH negative.
Man, that's boisterous.
Yeah, so it stands out. What it means, Jim,
Yeah.
well, that's anybody's guess. At least we know it's there. You know,
Yeah.
somebody got mad the other day. A lady wrote into me, and she said, "I have O positive and brown eyes." What, you said I'm not a contactee? I said, no. I said, you're a contactee. You just have brown eyes and O positive blood. I said, we just happen to see some weird stuff going on in the blood thing. And I found it coincidental that the two highest are both mutations. You know, the green eyes is a mutation of brown and blue that came on scene about 20,000 years ago. The RH negative came on scene about 25,000 years ago. And what's really strange about this, if you pick the one blood, the one that gets abducted the most, which is O negative, that's the universal donor. That's the only blood that everybody can take. That's it. And O negative people can only take O negative. It's the purest blood too. It's weird. It's like they're taking this group, or they're taking all these O negatives and all these negatives, I should say, taking that DNA, mixing it with different parts of the positive, and then remixing it back with extraterrestrial. And then here's one for you. You're going to love this. You know, there's three, A, B, and O, right? And
say that again. A, B, what?
There's A, B, and O.
What?
A,
okay.
B, and O. That's the three blood types, okay? Or the three majors. So you've got three alien types. And it's looking more and more and more like each one of them blood types may be represented by one of those extraterrestrials.
That
Can't
could
prove
be
it
so.
yet. The data's really good.
Well, I've seen them screen people before that way to see the genetic. You walk past this, which has got nothing to do with the blood, but I can see. But it's a technical gadget, machine, tester, where you walk in front of this thing that looks akin to a mirror, but it reflects, in a technical sense, what you're genetically, what race of extraterrestrials you're a part of. And I've seen them line people up and have them walk by, and then they check to see what it is, make a note of it, and the next person goes, and the next person goes, and the next person goes. So it's substantial. It's like they're coming down, check out the species and divide it up to see who was part of what. Well,
it's been interesting, I gotta say. I'll have to catch you before you get out to California. Maybe I'll Skype you up one day and bring you up to speed on all this, because there's a lot of stuff that we found, and these are on polls, by the way. Oh, and then we've got the Gray questionnaire, which is up to about 500 now. The reptilian, which I think is up to about 75, and the humans, which is about 40. I hate to admit when I'm wrong, because I just hate it. But I always said that it was a third, and a third, for like a decade and a half, because all the data suggested there was 1/3 gray, 1/3 reptilian, 1/3 human, abductee. Oh no, I was wrong. God, I hated to say that. It's about 65% gray, and they split the other half, the other two aliens. I didn't realize that. I thought it was a whole different thing. So anyway, live and learn.
Yeah, what do you know? What do you know? I mean, that conjures up memories for me, because without doubt, the high percentages of gray.
That's what it is. Me too. But we're going to take a break right quick. Go ahead and plug the site right quick. Tell them where to get the book at one more time. Jim, did I lose you?
Yeah, you did. I heard you say a bit. You said something about a break, and then I lost you from there.
Oh, that was weird. Okay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to the iCar site, click on Keepers. It takes you straight to Jim. It's jim-sparks.com. That's his website. You can go right to it. But anyway, you can go right to the site, click on the Keepers image, and take it. If you're on Facebook or MySpace, it was posted there earlier. Click on the link. It's really easy to find. You can also go check out all the data we were just talking about just now. When we come back for the second hour, we will open up both the phone lines and the virtual auditorium for questions. Everybody knows how to use the virtual auditorium. For the phone lines, it's 504-273-7379. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want everyone to please stay tuned, and we'll see y'all in about 8 minutes.
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama. Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go? Jamaica, off the Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drinks melting in your hand. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of the steel drum band. Down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take it to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? You can take it fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Way down to Kokomo. That Montserrat steam, looking out to sea, we'll perfect our chemistry. By and by we'll defy a little bit of gravity. Afternoon delight, cocktails and midnight. That dreamy look in your eye, give me a drop, it's a contact high. Way down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take it to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? You can take it fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. We
had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of
That's
nowhere?
what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, you know. Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, any last wish before you die, yours? Reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, fill your clubber, you son of a bitch. Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Welcome to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Okay. Good evening and welcome back to UFO Undercover, everyone. Sorry about that. We had a little glitch when we came back, but we'll edit that out since this is a pre-record anyway, so we can just... One of the nice things about pre-records, we can edit out the boo-boos. The live ones, not so much. Oh, and for the people who are listening to us live tonight, thanks, guys, for tuning in. Y'all can, if you want to put your hand up, you want to make a call in, it's 504-273-7379. I'm also on Skype, but if you're not on my list, I don't think it'll let you call. Yeah, so. But you can, like I said, 504-273-7379.
Joe, hold on a second.
Okay. So, yeah, y'all can always catch it that way. You can call in on either one of those venues. Or you can text me like normal, or you can email me at what we're using tonight, upln@cox.net. You can pop us up on there as well. A couple of things while I'm thinking about this, guys. Thinking when Joe and I were talking at the break, we're looking to do a conference down here in the beginning of November, the end of October, beginning of November, 3 or 4 days. So we're going to be looking for volunteers. We're going to be looking for donations for help and stuff. I'm not talking so much money, which that would be nice too. But, stuff like banners, things like that, flyers, all kind of stuff. But it is something we're looking to try to get out probably, we're trying to get it out for the last week of October, the first week of November. So, and it's going to be a paranormal ufology conference. It'll be themed out over 3 days. What you're going to probably end up with is 1 day paranormal, 1 day ufology, and 1 mixed day. We had talked about doing a conspiracy day, but I'm not thinking. I don't feel the love there. I don't think I feel the love there. Where'd that go? Oh, I'll try. Jim's off doing something. We got to wait for him to get back. Now, when we were talking earlier in the show, I was thinking about this too. When part 2 of the blood type study comes out, which we're not going to probably let out till, I believe, it's like a week, 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah, no, 3 weeks. The first week of August. That's going to go on the same page as the blood type study that's there. It's just going to be lower down on the list towards the bottom of the page. You'll find it there. Or maybe I'll flip it. I'll put the new study up at the top, and we'll lower the old study to the bottom of the page. And I got a call in November because I haven't talked to her recently. But as soon as I do, I will let y'all know what's going on with the reptilian study. And I know the personality study's up. And once the reptilian's done, we're going to do a phone call to her, Mr. George Norrie, and coast to coast, and ask him what he's going to talk about. That should work right there. Okay. Oh, Jim, did you hear that? What did we do?
I'm back.
All right. I thought I lost you for a second there. That was weird.
No, yeah.
All right, well, yeah. He's got that flying aircraft.
Yeah.
We'll welcome back. Now, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, so it's the last week of July, right? You're going to be in California?
Yeah, well, the last 3 days of July.
Okay.
The conference will be a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that'll be the 28th, the 31st, the 30th, and the 29th. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
29, 30, and 31, yeah.
What day are you speaking on?
I believe, for me, that's going to be on Saturday. I think it's, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be doing, Sunday's going to be there's going to be 4 of us, and the talk's going to be preparing for contact. And then my talk will come up on Saturday, the 30th.
What's it on?
Time travel is a fact. The theme will be time travel.
If I'm not there, I'll be looking for the CD. I know Move On usually gets the CDs out pretty fast.
Yeah, they're pretty good about that. Sometimes I even get one before I go.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's time traveling. Let me zip forward here, then zip back. Here, we made it, then we came back. Okay, all right, there we go. The whole time travel thing always freaks me out, because I have no doubt about time travel. And I understand that the Greys especially have a really good grasp on how to travel through time. I mean, ICAR, after all, is the one that broke the gain time and even time thing. So we have a good grasp of it, but still, when you really sit down and think about it, it still freaks me out. And then it's always that thing, okay, somebody finds out you do something. So they travel back in time and kill your great-grandpa so you're not born. But, of course, if you're not born, you've never done anything for them to go back in time to kill your great-grandpa. It's a vicious little cycle. I guess that's why they call it a paradox.
Well, yeah, you know, I picked something up, and it's kind of more, it leans on a theory, and then it leans on, from what I witnessed, but it seems as though time is extremely resilient, and it doesn't want to change, and it's more or less like the reverse of the butterfly effect. In essence, if you can see, picture a river. Say it's a powerful river. Say it's 100 feet deep. Say it's let's say it's about a football field. No, that's too big. Let's say it's about 60, 70 yards wide, and it's running along at about 15, 20 knots. And just look at time as streaming that way in the universe. And it takes a tremendous amount of energy to change the smallest thing in the future, is what and which is contrary and contradictory to the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect says one little small thing can change up the whole picture. But to expound on this, let's say that time is a river, and you walked up to the edge of that river as a person, you, Joe, or anyone that's listening, and you put your finger at the edge of the river. That water is going to rush up to your finger. The change takes place where your finger is, and then the water will wrap back around your finger and continue the way it was going. And I see time that way. And I think it's contrary to a small thing affecting a larger span of space of time. It's the reverse. It takes a lot of energy to change the smallest thing. And I think that the universe in itself is resilient that way. It's resistant to change. And I think that's how we can travel ahead or back in time, because we can get ahead of rid of our time. But the beauty part of it is it's hard to mess things up in the future. And you can picture this.
Well, no, I was listening when you were talking. I was thinking about a couple of different things that happened to me over the years. And it does seem like it has a way of untangling itself or straightening out its own messes. I don't know how to explain it, but it seems to work that way. Or maybe it reluctantly seems to work that way. I'm not sure. It's a very strange phenomenon. Because, you know, on these cases we get today, where we'll get somebody that's picked up, you know, easy case. Couple leaves hotel, okay, 11 o'clock. See him on the videotape. They stop at the convenience store. Shift change. People sees him there. They drive to the beach. They walk out of the beach, 11:10. They get back in their car. They drive back. Now, when they get in their car, like actually about a day later, they find a ticket. It says 10:10. Actually, it says 10:05. So they call the cop and ask the cop, was his clock wrong? Because remember, they were both seen at 11 o'clock in two different locations. They got them on videotape at the hotel with the car in the parking lot. The car was in the parking lot at 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, they actually got him getting in the car and leaving. Now, but the cop has them on videotape at 10:05.
Right.
Legally. But yet that car is on the camera at the hotel at 10:05. So
now say that again. Say this again. Say this again.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I know. All right, I'll go through the whole thing, make it easier.
Okay.
They're at the hotel. They're going out to the beach. Okay. So about 5 minutes to 11, they say we're going to go out to the beach. They walk out. They walk past the girl at the desk. Okay. But now before that, they had come back at the hotel at 6 and didn't leave till 11. So the whole time from 6 to 11, they were in that hotel. And the cameras have them go into the room, and the car's in the parking lot. So they leave at 11. They stop at the convenience store. They get a drink. They talk to the clerks. It's shift change. Both clerks remember even seeing them. We went back and asked them the next day. Both clerks remember seeing them there at 11:05 or about 11:03, something like that. And they drive out to the beach somewhere between 11:05 and 11:10, and go out and have some weird experiences on the beach. They come back. They get in their car. The next day, they find this ticket. The ticket says that they were illegally parked at 10:05. Okay, now at 10:05, that car was in that hotel parking lot. So when we contacted the officer and asked him about it, he said no. He said, you can check with the dispatch. I called it in at 10:05. He said, the videotape shows it at 10:05. So I asked him, because we were in Florida, I said, are we like out of phase on time? You know, like, was I thinking we were in Central Time when we were Eastern Time? But we were in Pensacola. So it was regular Central Time. So the cop has that car on that road, on that beach at 10:05. But the hotel has it on the camera in the parking lot at 10:05. How the hell is that possible? They were time traveling. That's the only way it could be. They had to be time traveling.
It's got to be.
But that and a few other experiences was one of the things that let us know that it seemed like the Greys were taking people out of time, keeping them out of time, keeping them for quite a long time out of time. And then when they put them back, it was usually like 15 minutes to an hour before they took them. It always freaks me out.
Well, that happened to me live. They put me back 2 to 3 minutes before they took me.
Yeah,
and I saw myself.
Yeah, see, other people have said that. Other people said they've seen themselves, and they were told not to interact.
I was laying on the sofa. This happened one time and one time only. That's why I'm so adamant or certain that time travel exists, other than, you know, some different things that show me that. But this one situation, I was laying sideways on the sofa with my hand on, with my head resting on my hand and my elbow to the sofa. You can picture this, watching television. And I got up, walked through the living room, and we had an island kitchen with a wet bar, and there was an aquarium on the counter, and I would stop to look at the fish, and then I walked around the wet bar and into the kitchen. There's a reason I'm going into this detail. I opened up the refrigerator door. The light came on like normal. Everything's normal. I'm not thinking anything's wrong. And I grabbed a snack and I ate it with the refrigerator door open, and I drank some soda and I shut the door, and then I came back around and I laid back down on the sofa. And then I got abducted. I got pulled. And I was gone a couple of hours. And this wasn't an accident, because it was to show that these things exist. And when they brought me back, I found myself in that position again on the sofa. And in front of me was me. And I could see me standing up as if I just left the sofa, and my heart was pounding through my chest. And I watched me go over to the counter where the aquarium was, look at the fish, walk around that island kitchen thing, that island counter, go into the bathroom, the refrigerator. The light came on. I saw myself eating the food, and then I started getting extremely nervous. I laid there silent because I wondered to myself, what is me going to think when me sees me? And as I came around, the other me, the past me, came around, it faced the sofa, walking towards the sofa to go lay back down again. It looked right through me. Me didn't see me, and which is kind of an interesting phenomena there. So that other kind person didn't see this other kind person, and as I walked up to the sofa, I got double scared because I thought I was going to lay on myself. And as he got within a foot or two of me, he just faded away and disappeared. So that
one time catching up with the other one.
Yeah.
It's weird because when we figured this out, because we couldn't. What happened was, Jim, around 98, 97, 98, 96, we just started having hardly no missing time cases. We're getting like one. We went from like getting 100 or 2 a year to like 2. I was like, what's going on here? And when we really started digging and really started getting in with our contactees that we were working with back at the time, which was probably about 50, 80 people, we started to realize that they were having these new kind of experiences. And it got me to thinking, and Lynn and I have talked about this a great deal, and you actually got me thinking about this too a while back too. The amount of time we're actually gone versus how much memory we have, and how much time is missed or gained in your real life, or which one do you consider your real life? Because recently we found something out that kind of bothers me. We know contactees sometimes get taken 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time, probably longer. But we're just going to say, for the sake of argument, 5, 6 months at a time, pretty consistently at that. It just kind of, it's like they take them, they're doing whatever they're doing, and they bring them back, and they all have a lot of recall. All of them do, which I think is really interesting. I mean, they don't have recall of the entire time they're gone. There's still a lot of stuff they block out, but they have an enormous amount of recall. And so it reminds me a lot of that you, but then I'm like, are they just taking you out for 6 months and flipping you all the way back and putting you back in your life where they took you out? Or are they creating some kind of host, downloading your consciousness into it, and putting the host there while they got you off somewhere?
Well, if I understand you correctly, let's see if this correlates. That when they take these people, let's say hypothetically they take these people at 10 o'clock in the morning on a particular day. They're gone for 3 or 6 months, like you said. When they bring them back, when do they bring them back? Do they bring them back the same period they took them, or is the same time elapsing while they're gone?
No, it seems like there's no time elapsing. They're either taking them all the way, taking them and letting them, for how long they're taking them, and then bringing them back just before the moment that they took them, or they may be in some cases replacing them with a. It's not like a clone; it's like a host body they use, where they can download the consciousness to it. And of course, they just terminate the host. The host body once it's no longer useful. That really bothers the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's a scary notion.
Yeah, that bothers me.
Yeah.
What happens if they get the wrong one? They get confused. And little Greg guys do a little ditzy sometimes. I don't know, those kind of things scary. Get out of there.
Nice.
That's overall. Well, go ahead.
No, what'd you say?
I was going to say, for you overall, when you look across all this, because you've had a lot of experiences, there's a lot of stuff you remember. You know, there's some good, there's some bad, and a lot of in between. But when you look at it, for yourself, your life, your soul, your essence, whatever it is that makes you Jim Sparks, has it been a positive thing?
Yeah, in the latter years it has. You know, the first 6 years to me was extremely negative. Yeah, I mean, changed my life, changed the course of my life. And, you know, just a lot of bad things because of that. And then the next 6 to 8 years afterwards was an eye-opening experience where I started seeing what they were up to, at least that aspect of an agenda that they were up to, and understand it. And I felt a lot better. And in the last 6, 7 years, it's been much more positive because it's on it's equal footing. You know, they rarely do they rip me out of my house in the middle of the night and suck me up to space and find myself in a room where they extract semen and do all these medical procedures. And
they did that a long time ago.
Yeah, beat me up. You know, it beat me up. It was traumatizing. And so now it's just this interaction that, you know, on their daily practices, you know, if they feel like it's revealing themselves, and I get to see a little piece of what's going on. And, you know, I find that to be very exciting and much more positive and omniscient, you know. And so, yeah, I see it as positive. But
I do for mine. Most contactees, you know, pretty much feel it's positive. But I see Jason's got his hand up. We're going to take that question, and we've got a couple other questions in the queue, and I got some of these over here I want to get out too, because we got about 30, 40 minutes left. Yeah, so Jason, I'm going to drop the mic, and you're going to be live as soon as you pick it up. Let's do that. Jason, I didn't get any audio from you, man. Yeah, none of the medias were moving or nothing. You're quiet. Let me know if you get it fixed, and I'll just put your hand back up. I was looking at a question that came in from Jessica. Jessica, where are you from? Where are you from? Oh, Germany. Hey. Oh, it's warm over there. She wanted to know how. Let me just read a question. She said, Mr. Jim Sparks, I would like to ask you, why should we believe what you are saying? Also, why is it that, whoops, sorry, I dropped the page there, guys. She also wants to know why is it, that the aliens chose you? What makes you special? Well, you kind of a rude little thing there. Go ahead, Jim.
It's okay, actually. I expect this, and I respect people for what they think, one way or the other. I've always said all along, if you find what I have to say hard to swallow, it wasn't too long ago that I was that way myself. And if you can use what I have to share, well, all the better. But, you know, to answer the question, why should you believe it? Anybody that's ever followed my story and experiences knows that that's my take on how I come across. I don't expect anybody to believe anything. I'm like a scientist, even though I don't have any degrees in science, and I take a scientific perspective on all of this as much as humanly possible. And in a sense, I'm like a journalist, and I'm not a journalism, and I only relate back to what I've experienced and what I've surmised out of it. And I fully anticipate there's those who will wholeheartedly say, yeah, I think he's right on, and he's not, you know, hiding anything. He doesn't have any hidden agendas. He's coming straightforward. And I know there's going to be those that are skeptical or don't want to accept it at all. So I don't have a problem with that whatsoever.
You can't make everybody believe.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I think I'm really fine with that comment. And I don't think I'm special at all. I think if you address the other part of it, I'm of average intelligence, maybe slightly more than average. I would like to think so. And I don't have some monster ego that goes around and say, "Oh, gee, I'm special," because it took them quite a few years, because I used to scream and yell in those first 6 years that were negative. Why me? Why me? Why me? I hated their guts. I could never get any answers out of them in those first 6 years. And until finally they exposed to me that they tracked your family history, genetic tracking. And they've followed my family line, where they've shown to me over 2,000 years. And so periodically in their travels, for whatever reason that they track this particular family line and other abductees' family lines, it's not known to me. Well, that hasn't been revealed, but they scientifically categorize family trees. And they just periodically will hit different generations and make contact with those people. And I just happen to be one of them now. And so nothing else was ever revealed to me to say I was special. The only thing I can think is that, personally too, that might add to it is that I have a boldness that isn't afraid of rejection. And it may come from my experience in marketing, where, you hear a lot of no's before yes, so to speak, and you can't have your feelings hurt every time someone doesn't want what you got to offer, kind of thing. And so that boldness makes me come out and say these things and not feel rejected or bothered by anything negative that may come out of the listeners or people who are listening to it. So I think her questions are very valid, and I completely understand them. And again, it's genetics for me. That's the way it was explained to me. And I don't expect anything when I talk on this subject. In the past, I used to be much more reserved about coming across, because I wanted to maintain my credibility and try not to come out with too much information. So over time, all I can do is to say what I've experienced without hiding, or feeling weird about it. So.
You got to say what you know. I mean, that's just how it is. And as a contactee, you really do. I mean, I know it's harder sometimes because people look at you like, "What the hell did you just say?" And I really do understand it. I say stuff myself, and people are like, "What did he just say?" Oh my God! But we've got a few more questions. Let's see. We're gonna get Linda's in a second. Micah wrote in from California. She wants to know, what type of technical things have you learned from the aliens? Which aliens pick you up the most? And have you got any type of spiritual enlightenment from them at all?
Well, they're addressing the spiritual aspect first, is that they have an inert, if that's the proper verbiage, concern over the environment of our planet. And they see this host planet as something extremely special. And they're deeply, deeply concerned with its future and, what humankind is doing to her. They're concerned about all these aspects. And then one might turn around and say, well, gee, if they have all this high-tech stuff, how come they don't just freely remove toxins from the atmosphere and remove the toxins from the Earth's soils and the Earth's waters and take care of us that way? Well, they did make arrangements in the past, 40, 60 years, with people at the time, government, and from the best of my knowledge, in that day, it was solely in the United States, I believe. I think it's spread out to other countries definitely now, no doubt. There's like a union or a pact amongst Western countries in the black op thing when it comes to this stuff, because I've seen all different cultures involved face-to-face in abductions where I've seen human beings. I've seen the black op people. But anyway, they made arrangements to give these technologies freely as long as we stop nuclear weapons, we stop polluting, we stop biological weapons, and nuclear weapons is a big thing with them. They see as a huge part of our possible environmental demise. And they are concerned about that. They, you know, for years, they never told me what they referred to themselves as. And in the spiritual context, I wouldn't have been able to accept it if they would have said to me, keepers, where we call ourselves the keepers. I might have looked at it like a joke, or like they were jerks, or what do you think this is, a zoo, you know, and things of that nature. This is a zoo and you're a zookeeper, you know, when you put yourself up on a you know, idolize yourself. And over the years, I've learned that they have a deep concern with the planet. At the same time, they want us to come forward and meet them in the middle. So the technologies that were gifted to us by these people who hold this stuff in secret, who've made weapons out of this stuff, who've hurt people out of this stuff, who've made money out of this stuff. You know what I'm talking about, right, Joe? When I say that?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're
And, you know, get that garbage out of the way and get these things out on the table so we can use them. So spiritually speaking, there's a deep concern within that way. What was the second part of the question?
I was listening to you talk about that. Hold on, let me go find it. Well, you know what? We got lots of other questions. Do me a favor, whoever wrote that, send us back, because we got other questions in the queue, so we're going to take them. We've only got Jim for a little while longer, so we're going to get some other ones. See, Jason's got his hand back up. I think he's got his mic fixed. We're going to let him have a shot again. Jason, come on, ask your question. You're live on air.
All right. Is everything kind of working here now? All right, good. Thank you. All right, Jim. Well, first off, I'm Jason Wilson. I'm the Texas State Director for ICAR. Worked with Joe for a long time, and actually I interviewed you a few years back here on the network on my show, The Unabridged Universe, and it's good to talk to you again, have the opportunity to ask you another question. Now, all right, let me frame this question properly. It might be considered kind of a loaded one, but all right. You've had your experiences. I've had my experiences, and I know that we have both, you know, between us have probably talked to at least literally hundreds of other people that that ET has chosen to contact for whatever reasons. Now, I think that most people have had fairly consistent experiences. Now, granted, a lot of the particular details may be slightly different, but the general gist of the experiences, you know, pretty much point towards the same general direction. I mean, there's definite continuity between these experiences. But I'd like to ask your opinion on how you feel about certain aspects of the quote-unquote ufology community out there. I mean, here are the contactees, like us and others, who are sort of a loose collective that have had our experiences. And then you have to contrast that with a lot of the other experiences that you hear in the ufology community. I mean, a lot of the, I don't want to, you know, name any particular names, but I guess I'll be nice and try to say that a lot of the experiences that you hear popularized are certainly not along the lines of what most contactees are out there experiencing. I mean, what I'm talking about here is like a lot of the people who claim to have their experiences with channel beings, or they were hit by a beam of light or something like that. And then they get this information that's completely and totally contrary to what a lot of the contactees are experiencing. And also what a lot of these, you know, quote unquote encounters seem to entail is that these people get some kind of information that's entirely different than, you know, what everybody else is having, that go on to explain away what everybody's experiencing. You know, things along the lines of, you know, I channeled the Ashtar Command or the Otisians or something like that, and they try to, well, I think you get what I'm talking about here, Jim. I mean, there's like a huge disconnect between a lot of the big published stories out there and what everybody else is experiencing. And I'd just like to know how you feel about that, because I think a lot of these ridiculous sounding experiences can, well, I'll just put it this way. When somebody comes out and says, you're a contactee, I'm a contactee, I've had ET contact, I mean, the first thing a lot of these people here think about is, something that they've heard on Coast to Coast that sounds completely and totally ridiculous. It's nothing like what we've experienced,
Well, just addressing the channeling issue, I've learned this, okay? If you could hold what I have to say at value, just presume that this is coming from experience and it's real, and what you want to do with it is up to you, and I, one way or the other. But I know that through 24 years of contact, and that's a long time, that Jim Sparks is conscious and has total recall of better than 95% of every interaction. So it's always face-to-face. It's always in my face. Nothing is kept from me when I'm there, and nothing's taken away from me when I come back. So that's a uniqueness there, so I can share these things. And where I'm going with this is the fact that there are other dimensions. They absolutely 100% exist. They take up the same space. They take up the same time as you and I are sitting in, that all of us are sitting in now. Now, why we can't see them or feel them or touch them, there's all kinds of theories there. It's a different vibration, or it's a different form of matter, or it's in a different slot, or it's real tiny, or it's real, whatever the case may be, they do exist. And what I learned over the years is that, this will lead to the channeling aspect of it. What I've learned over the years is that they use the extraterrestrials, non-human intelligent beings with high technology, use these dimensions to travel with, to go from point A to point B, particularly locally. They use these dimensions to hide in, or to keep their presence secret, even though they're occupying the same space and time. And what I found astounding over the years is that bringing in these abduction experiences, that they walk you through, or they bring you through, technically, dimensions to go from point A to point B. And I see in these travels from time to time entities that live or coexist with them in these dimensions. They're not space travelers. They're not from the other side of the galaxy or the universe. There are entities they're diverse in every way imaginable. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I don't touch on this too much because I haven't quite put a finger on all of it myself. Some of them are extremely nasty. They're not friendly. They're nasty. They're evil-like in a sense. They're liars. And then there's some of them that seem benign and honest and truthful. And you have a assortment of all these entities out there that I choose not to study because it's just too extreme from one to the other. Now, I'm theorizing. When I come, that part I know to be so, because this is what I've seen, not with my own eyes, with my flesh and blood there. And when it comes to the channeling, I theorize that people are tapping into different types of these entities that aren't exactly coming across straightforward, but they're experts at sounding that way. And so, or it's their viewpoint, or whatever the case may be, and some of the stuff can be very ridiculous. Some of the stuff can be right on the money. And so I think that's why it conjures up all assortments of different stories and different aspects, and I'm Xandar from Blue, and I'm this from that, and we're the 12 of this, and, all these things that I'm not being critical about, but we're hearing these things, blah, 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 and you just got to be careful as to who you tap into. So I theorize that's the case there. The other aspect of your question, which was there's different ways to answer the other aspect of why for some it's this enlightening experience, and for others it's this traumatizing experience, and for others it's this and that, and cockamamie this, and then this is right and this is wrong, is that I know I've seen this with my own eyes, and I can only talk from my perspective here. And I can't say this is the whole picture. I can only talk from the perspective that I have in my view when I'm there and what my face and eyes see and I experience as a person. But people, when I watch them in mass abductions and group abductions, and I observe the going-ons, anyway, weird terminology I just used, the going-ons, that they take the memory from these people before they go back, and they leave them with very little. Sometimes they leave them with a lot more than very little. And a lot of people don't handle it well when they're on board or when they're in an abduction scenario. They can't handle it, or they don't handle it, or they panic, or they go through these different scenes. And so it conjures up all different kinds of things to fill the gaps. And I'm not saying these people aren't right, or they're not wrong, or they're right, or they're wrong, or they're making up, or they're not making up. I'm coming across one way, who's coming across another way. But put it simply, a lot of the stuff is taken away, and it's hard for them to put it together, and they come out with different things. And so you've got a combination of things that are in this invisible world it's just insane. It's insane. And I mean, there's just entities, they're diversified, there's all different types, there's all kinds of stuff out there. They're not necessarily working with us. And so the extraterrestrial, the non-human intelligent beings, for quote unquote, the grays, and there's different species of grays, have a vested interest in this planet. There's some sort of like a dual ownership kind of thing. I don't know if that's the right verbiage I want to use, but there's a vested interest in this planet, and they come across it in a really different way.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I hope that helps. Pardon me? I didn't hear that.
No, I was just saying they definitely have a vested interest in this, and there definitely seems to be more than... there's an argument we have in our organization. If we weren't sentient when the aliens came here, whether we were an ape-like species or something else, and the human aliens did like everybody says and made us slaves, and the reptilians interbred with them and gave us that spark that made us become conscious and self-aware. And the grays later on added to it to give us our intellect and to move forward. Well, technically, we're a created species. Do we have any rights? Is it our planet? I mean, is it their planet or is it our planet? When it comes right down to it, they wanted to wipe us off of it. We couldn't stop them. So whose planet is it actually?
I busted their chops for many years over that, and I'm still not quite thrilled about it. I don't claim to embrace alien culture and take it wholeheartedly and say, let's live like they do. I want to live like we do, but I want us to be evolved and enhanced with all the great good things. But that's a stressful issue for me, because I don't like the idea, because they've come across several times more than once that they have manipulated evolving, or I don't even know, these ape-like creatures, which I've seen many. Well, I've got to see what they look like, because they brought back moving pictures, so to speak, almost like a film of how they found this place and what we look like and behave like to a certain degree before they genetically manipulated us to be human. And that's the aspect that I have and still have a hard time swallowing, because I don't like to think, because it's me personally, I don't want to think that, gee, you guys, you're claiming you created us. They're not coming across like God, but they're coming across that they keep it very scientific. So if you keep things with these guys at a scientific level and keep your emotions away from it, you're not going to hear everything you want to hear, and you're not going to see everything you want to see, and it's not easy to swallow. But they claim that their hands have a play in bringing us where we are. And, what can I say? Just them. I mean, if you look at all of our history, you'll find the Sumerians talk about it, the Egyptians talk about it, the Aborigines talk about it, all the Mesoamerican tribes talk about it, the Native American tribes talk about it. There's even stories in Europe. So, I mean, we've known. It's like we got ignorant
It seems like the first 5,000 or 10,000 years, it was a much more open society. They seemed to move more freely amongst us. There did seem to be some alien technologies being used on the planet. But then somewhere around the time of modern religion, we became stupid. We reverted. At least now they admit to it. They say the Middle Ages cost us, the Inquisitions and all the lovely stuff that religion did there for about 500 years. They said it probably set us back 2,000 to 5,000 years technologically, because we were evolving so fast. And there were great strides even made in. There was even great men then. But they could never achieve their goals because look at Notre Dame. She would have been hung or burned, or and most of the good scientists, all of them. And they were always borderline walking on the edge. That's one of them things.
Well, you got, spiritualism and science have always been, in the past, 500 years, spiritualism, 500 years behind science. I mean, if you said the world, I'm just rehashing what you said, but, if you said the world was round instead of flat, they put you in a dungeon or they executed you or tortured you. And there's always been that gap. And see, they're so far evolved that they've already addressed these issues and then came to a solution, and then they live it, and they may be thousands of years ahead. And some of these things to us are like, whoa, man, that's way out of line with my spiritualism. And, well, you're looking at beings that have been through it. Some of these things are tough. I surmised, that, they got worker beings. How do you classify a worker being? Something that appears to be, does it have a soul? The little 3-foot ones that run around doing all the tasks. I got to wonder, I know they created them, but, where do they stand in the whole spectrum of spirituality?
Well, what's interesting about that? We think there's two types of the little short grays. Over the last 2 decades, we've been collecting some data that seems to be that one of the 3-foot grays are created and may even be partly mechanical. Well, not mechanical, maybe a cyborg might be a better way of describing it, but you can't tell from the outside. They're empathic and telepathic, which I find interesting. But there's 3-foot grays that seem to be organic. They even seem to have, I want to say, emotions, just not like ours. They're not as intense as ours. They have them. Because, I've heard people describe like they feel like they're being treated like a pet by some of these 3-foot grays because they see them so often and they see their family lines so often. They kind of think they're like pets, which I found interesting when I heard that. So it looks like there's 2 types there. Don't know for sure. Checking it out. Could be way wrong. Wouldn't be the first time I'd have to say I was wrong. It is interesting. We have quite a bit of data on it now. So it does look like there's two different types of 3-foot grays, which still kind of weirds me. And then there seems to be a 5 to 6 foot range and around a 7-footer. And then there seems to be like a leader. I want to call it a queen, but I don't have nothing to base that on. They're like 9 foot. So it's almost like there's a hierarchy based on height. It weirds me out. And I know that's not what it is, but it weirds me out because there seems to be the higher, the taller the being in the grays, the more intelligent and the higher the rank they are, which I guess they must do it in a caste system.
Well, I do have to agree with you on that aspect of rank and file. And again, only what I've seen, but the intelligence expanding outward to understand more than what meets the eye seems to dominate the ones that have more of a narrow band of thinking. And it's not like they're in any kind of an argumentative situation. It's like the supervisor grades. When the workers were working in the early years, and I got out of control, they didn't have the out of control, meaning that I went berserko because I never cooperated with anything they were doing. I screamed, yelled, and if any time I could get myself free, I would have torn them to pieces. And when I got in that state of just rage, total rage, just unending, they couldn't control it. And then a supervisory being would come in who had mental powers that were much superseded theirs, and they moved out of the way, and then he would subdue me by his thought. I always use he, she, it, whatever. I just used the male. That's it.
Personalities seem to be male or female. I don't mean genitalia-wise, but I mean when they're telepathic communication or empathic, there does seem to be a male, female. I don't know how to describe it, but it does. One feels female, one feels male. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think there's a feminine and a masculine aspect of the way it comes across inside you, and but the rank and file seems to come in with the mental capacity, the intellectual, and then to be able to expand it outward and control things. Now, whether that's structured by how it's structured, is it structured because it's a natural thing that they have, but they seem to live well together. You know, it doesn't seem to be an argument situation, argumentative, I should say, scenarios. It works well for them anyway.
You know, we got about 5 minutes left, and I know Linda wanted to know, where do you see Jim in the future? In all of this, I guess that's what she's meaning about where you are today and all of the ufology and alien stuff. In general, where do you think you're going to be in the future?
Well, you know, I've got 2 campaigns that I'm going forward with, and that, you know, at times they go idle because, you know, life takes up my time like anybody else.
Yeah, I know that.
I'd like to see the 2 things that I was, so to speak, missioned to help accomplish, which is, one is to bring forward the amnesty bill with all my efforts and energy, and tie that together with the right people, because in their eyes, there's 2 things that they want. That the 2 messages that I have that are the majors are to get the amnesty bill so these things can roll out when these people feel ready to do it. And the second part of it is to create an organization that cares for the planet. I mean, I already chose a name for it. It's called Your Earth. I see myself as being the chairperson of that organization. And as it grows, its goals would be at first to preserve rainforest land. They see the rainforest as something extremely critical. They see it as the heart, the lungs, and the internal organs of the planet. We've created enough damage around here to sever the arms and the legs, but the body, a torso can still live, so to speak, and we're in the torso aspect once we start hitting the internal organs of Mother Nature, which is the trees, and the water, the seas. They're just putting the rainforest on the forefront for me. That's what I'm supposed to be doing if I choose to do it. And because they see that as the Earth's way of cleansing and renewing herself. It's the lungs. It's how she refreshes and renews herself, and we're constantly attacking that stuff. But it would be a global hands-on project. That's what Your Earth would be about. And it would be, in a sense, the way for us to meet in the middle before we meet them. If there's a global hands-on project to actually preserve and then regenerate and renew what we took from Mother Nature in that aspect, then we have a united front on a global basis, which then can involve government backup from all different Western worlds, which is kind of not nice when people hear that, but it's a unity there. So here, while we're bringing forward a way to preserve our planet, then information is coming out through the amnesty bill, and these technologies are coming out that meet us in the middle, because the technology, it does exist in the hands of human beings. We don't need it from the aliens at this point to fix this place, to get the free energy that's there, the non-polluting energy, to get the stuff to take the toxins out. All these things meet in the middle. So I see myself, and I would like to see myself heading off your Earth and pulling all the resources together, and then relinquishing my seat as chairman to those who would be better minded for the job, whatever it takes to get it done. I don't have an ego here. And that's, at first I would have to handle it that way, but then just relinquish it. And if we just amnesty,
if we can help, send us anything. We can always post. We got lots of people all over the place now. It's getting kind of insane. But hey, these people are paying attention, talking, saying, like, "Oh man, we done hit 2 hours on the mark. We're done 20 minutes over."
Hey,
so it's always
you know
2 hours,
what?
we just hit 2 hours talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was time travel, time displacement.
2 hours for you is easy. It's an easy one. You don't want to talk, I can. Oh yeah, okay. I'm losing my mind. Y'all don't pay no attention to me. I lost it. It's 3 o'clock in the morning my time, guys. Jim's all fresh and spry. I'm about to go. Yeah, okay. Where's the bed? Jim, you were great, man. You did a fantastic job. Give them the website. Tell them where they're going to find you. One more time, remind them where you're going to be.
Oh yeah. You know what? You could do me a favor and do yourself a favor. If you can get around to going on Jim Sparks, so it's JIM, and then there's the hyphen, sparks.com, and pick up my latest version of the Keepers, because it'll help to, I hope that it'll enlighten you, and it's supportive of what I'm doing. And if you can bring yourself over to that website and pick up a copy, and the next time you hear me speaking, you can draw your own conclusions from my experiences, and you can see me better, and you can see why I say what I say, because I put myself in you, in my work as I wrote it. And you'll be able to follow it in a way that no one else can without firsthand experiencing these things as I did, and that's as I wrote it. So if you come on board with that, I think you'll really like it a lot.
Guys, y'all need to get out there, because the book's good. I read it, when it first came out, but you need to check it out, guys. There's a lot of good information in there. And I tell you, for the people who are listening tonight, or who's going to listen to the show when it originally airs, if you skeptical.
Say that again, Joe.
Oh, I was going to say, for the people who are going to listen to this show when it airs originally on a Wednesday night, it's regular time on Wednesday night. If you're skeptical, because I know a lot of people who listen to this show are not believers, or listening for whatever reasons they're listening, but they don't really think this is real. So I'll tell you, do yourself a favor. Take the book. For the people who know about this, read it as fact. For the people I'm talking about right now, pick it up and read it as a good sci-fi novel. Any way it goes, at least partly way through the book, you're going to be going, what the hell? What the hell? And I would bet you money that you end up writing to it. But anyway, on that note, we got to get out of here. Like I said, it's about 3 in the morning this time, and Jim's got stuff he's got to be doing. Jim, great job, man, as usual. Fantastic. Hope to catch y'all out in California. If not, everybody else, get out there and go see him in California. It's a big state, 40 million people.
Yeah, hey, I hope to see you or anybody listening in California, Joe. I really hope to see you there, too, and I just want you to know it's a privilege to be on your show again. And it's an honor. Thank you.
You're always a great guest. I'm going to get Linda to get back in touch with you. Well, actually, when you're in the States, I might catch you while you're at the conference, because we're going to be doing panels with all these 20 shows we're doing right here, these 20 contactees. And we're thinking about, I'll tell you later about which group we were thinking about putting you in, but we'll talk about that after a while. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to get out of here. For the people who hang out with us, I think there's about 170,000 people online with us tonight. So I want to tell all y'all, thank you for hanging out. I know it's early in the morning, unless you happen to be in Australia, and it's afternoon. That's where you're on the world. But again, thanks, everyone. Until next week, guys, have some fun, smile. Oh, and remember this Wednesday, Karis Brown Malloy will be on. She's going to be ICAR's new Pennsylvania state director. She's a contactee, and she'll be discussing her latest new book. Have a good evening, you guys. See y'all next week.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Centralist. Tonight we are doing election updates. Right now it's Mike and I. We don't know who's going to be joining us tonight. I know Jay is going to be joining us later. We got a couple others that may come and go. We'll send out a couple of invites as the night goes on. If you're listening to us via the radio or the television or whatever you might be watching or listening on, remember, you can always communicate with us. You can always come into one of the chats. I think there's 8 chat groups you can come in on: YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So you can always pop into one of those. But you can always hit me up on my messenger if you have my email, icarcox.net. You can do that as well. We're going to be looking to keep up on all the polling data tonight. We'll be slipping some news in between, some real news in between, because, you know, it's going to take a little while for the poll. And it's, 7 o'clock up by y'all, 7:15, huh? So in Mike's neck of the woods, it's the polls are closing. So we should start getting some data out there. I know Virginia and all is closed. Pretty much all the East Coast now is closed up. So we'll start seeing some data over the next 45 minutes on that. I've seen mixed reviews all day long. Whatever radio station I listen to, that's how the polling was going. And what I mean by that, if I was listening to a Republican, oh, the Republicans were winning. If I was listening to a Democrat, oh, it's going to be better than they thought. Democrats to go. So I don't know, guys and girls. We're just going to have to wait and find out. It's getting to the point where I don't think we can really trust the polls anymore. You know, I got to say this. We ran the APC polling company for 5 years. Its polls were excellent. So I think I'm going to bring it back because at least with those polls, I had an idea where something was going. With the polls today, I don't know whether to, well, just put it this way. So I've been watching NBC for 5 weeks. I wanted to prove something to myself. Not one poll has Joe Biden below 40%, which is like 36 and 38. And none of their polls have the Republican beating the Democrats. Matter of fact, and NBC thinks it's going to be a blue wave. I don't even know what to think about that. I mean, I don't even know where to get into. Even CNN's been on everybody's. I got to say this about CNN while I'm thinking about this. CNN has actually tightened up. They fired a bunch of people. They got rid of a lot of crazy liberals. They've just canned them. Some really crazy liberals they've canned. And then they have started moving a little bit towards a conservative side. I've noticed that they fact-checked Joe Biden on everything he said for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Not the only one. A couple of other groups have started fact-checking Joe Biden. What do you got? He got, instead of you had to give you 1 Pinocchio, 5 Pinocchios, he got bottomless Pinocchios. Yeah, people, bottomless means he lied more than Trump did already, and he's only, not even 2 years into his election, into his win. Bottomless Pinocchios. And this came from a liberal news organization. Yeah, I don't even know what to think about that. It's, you know, and then I was watching some of the other polling out there. I mean, the polls are tight. I mean, this might be one of the tightest elections I've seen, but you got to wonder why. What is it that would make someone vote blue right now versus red? I mean, what is it? I mean, I'm not either one. I'm a centralist. I know what I'm going to vote and who I'm going to vote for. Where the 2 states I live in, look, voting blue is a waste of time. Mississippi, nobody blues winning in Mississippi. It's just not going to happen. Louisiana, if it's in New Orleans, somebody blue might win. Other than that, not so much. The governor's blue right now, but the rest of the state is totally red. So really, truly there, it's going to, those 2 states are going to vote majority red. So it's not going to be any big surprises there. So it doesn't really, you know, as long as you're voting, if you vote blue, you're wasting your vote. If you vote red, it doesn't really matter because they're going to win anyway. There's a lot of states out there like that, both in blue and red states. I mean, California, pretty much, you know, there are some chances for some red wins in Cali now. The state that interests me the most right now is Michael State. Now, I've seen, what's his name? So Hochul, I've seen her behind in a couple of polls now, including some what I would call purple polls, some middle of the road polls. I wonder what's going on up there. I mean, I seen one thing where she was talking on this news agency and they were running a list of the stats next to her. Everything she said was a lie.
I think that
what the hell?
Hochul, I think that her expectations are as high as her eyebrows, you know. and really in New York, you know what it is? Zeldin has bonded with Mayor Adams in New York City and said, hey, I'll help you stop all this crime. I'll fire the prosecutors that aren't doing their jobs. We'll put more cops on the street and the crime's over tomorrow. He said, tomorrow he will end the no cash bail. Done. So now Hochul, her last thing that she said was, okay, I'll fix everything tomorrow, no problem. It's such a slap in the face to first, man, any victim of crime that in New York State where you got to deal, imagine you live in a horrible neighborhood, you're a victim of crime, and the criminal's right there in your face still because he didn't go to jail. I don't know, man. It seems to me everything they do and all the moves they make are against people. They're against black people. They're against Spanish people. They're against gays. There's gays being singled out.
But they own the press. So that's what always cracked me up. That's like when Donald Trump got on television and said to the black people, he said, and what has the Democrats done for you lately? And everybody in the party was forced to go, nothing.
Tonight's election, I'm calling for blue balls and red wave coming out of everywhere, your eyes and everywhere. That's what I'm calling for. And then we're gonna talk about Donald Trump, who's telling the dude in Florida, DeSantis, to stay out of it. Like, don't come near us. You're gonna rule today, DeSantis. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, if I was Trump, I'd watch out because right now Santa's more popular than Trump.
I think he is.
He is. The polls show he's quite a bit more popular than Trump.
He's lesser of a target.
Now, I'll say this though: I have seen about 10 polls that came out recently since Trump said he might announce in November 14 that he might be. Why couldn't he have waited? That's probably going to hurt tonight. But the polls have him beating everybody.
Well, he hasn't announced yet, though.
No, but they started running polls because he said he was. And
he's
the
going
polls
to
show him
announce
clearly
the day before Pence's book comes out.
Oh, Lord.
That's the 15th is when his book comes out, which is fun.
Well, I think it's funny too. I hope he knows what's in that book. But all the polls, including New York Post and the Washington, and all of them have Trump winning if he runs. They haven't beaten Biden easily. And so somebody said, well, Biden might not run. Maybe what's his name from California? He'll cremates him. Matter of fact, his only competition is DeSantis. And DeSantis doesn't have enough votes to win the primary. See, this is what's funny. DeSantis could win the national election against anybody he runs against. But right now, he doesn't have the primary votes to beat Trump.
I'll tell you my position. As I'm an independent. I left the Republican Party. I'm an independent, and my position is there's no way I could possibly vote Democrat. Not for a long time. Everything that I see them as a party that has
love the Dems.
I've seen them as a party that has conspired against the American people. Not just with lies. They've gone beyond the norm of corruption. They've gone to places that you just shouldn't go as elected representatives at all. And I would love to see if Zeldin gets in as governor of New York. God bless him. I would love after he cleans up the streets and does all that crap. I'd love to see him go after Hochul for all this bribery. Her family, her husband, and all the kickbacks and all the stuff going on, man. Because she's so dirty. You know what I mean? And she kind of tries to come across like she's not. I don't think she's in touch with reality at all. But
I have to agree. I think she's off in snowy land somewhere.
If you have a conscience, there's no way you can vote Democrat with the shenanigans and games and all the deceptions they've been part of. And it's just a sales pitch. When you listen to them talk, it's a sales pitch. They don't care about black people. They don't care about Latinos. They don't care about anybody. They care about the cash.
That's the funny part, or the sad part is it looks like the Latinos and the blacks are starting to figure it out.
You haven't seen black neighborhoods in New York City become a shooting gallery. Oh, now it's looking like San Francisco in one place. You got people pooping in the street, needles everywhere, junkies falling out of their wheelchairs. This is the Democrats' vision. So are they promoting anything? Are they fixing anything? Are they doing anything? Are they promoting growth? Are they helping those people? No. They're saying, here's your junk. Go die in the street. We don't care. It's just getting worse. And now that crime's pouring over into other neighborhoods. Yeah. So then you start hearing these guys say, hey.
Oh, wait. Speaking of devils, hold on. Let me bring the devil in.
You know what they're saying? They're saying vote like your life depends on it in the city because it does. It's so dangerous.
But that's what the Democrats are saying too. Vote like there's not going to be any democracy left if you don't.
People aren't going to the subways. And where are these vigilantes, man? You'd think you'd see a few. I'm just asking for a friend.
They're all in Pittsburgh, man. That's where they are.
all these movies,
Damn
these
Pennsylvania,
dystopian
man.
movies that I used to watch years and years ago. Where are they? These guys, they talk a good game.
It's I'm telling you, that's what they all are. They're all
How you doing,
Pennsylvania.
Sean?
Hey, Mike, what's up, Joe? Good to
Hey,
see
Long
what's
you.
up,
time no
baby?
see, man. How's everything out there in your neck of the woods?
Well, the last I saw, Shapiro was beating Mastriano by 5 or 6 points. That's
Is
about
that
it.
good?
That's bad because my opinion is I'd rather have a Republican Mascherino, and that me and my mom kind of duked it out today about
Oh
that.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Politics
See,
brings out the something in everybody, man.
I'm
Don't talk
telling you, but
politics with
see,
family or friends, man. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. My mom taught me that if you want to be friends with someone, don't talk politics or religion with them. She's right.
exactly. Yeah. Now, like when my dad was alive, way back 30, 40 years ago, you voted the party that you were part of. You just voted party. You know what I mean? And it just seems like it just has changed so much.
It has.
That, and it's not. There was a picture. Who was it? John F. Kennedy and another president shaking hands. Eisenhower? Am I right or wrong on that?
I don't know. It's been a long time, baby.
Right. But it's like, maybe we should get back to that. Do you think it will ever? That was my question I wanted to say.
Oh, well, I mean, you've had some presidents can get along. I mean, even though Carter didn't like Reagan, they got along fine. Ford got along. Well, Nixon got along with everybody until he got his ass in trouble.
It was a different era. That was the golden age. These days, these people are calling each other Nazis and saying that they're pedophiles and every horrible thing you can think of. How do you do that and then reach across the aisle with that same person? How do you confront them?
That's the problem.
You just called me a Nazi and whatever. So how's the race with Fetterman? What's going on there? And Dr. Oz.
Nothing yet. No nurse. No.
I haven't seen anything yet on them. I was looking myself. They're just.
I heard that Fetterman was just cast for the new Addams Family movies. Uncle Fester, man. That's
I
amazing.
wouldn't doubt it. He kind of looks like Uncle Fester, man.
I can see him with a light bulb in his mouth. You know what I mean?
It's, I could see. Wait, hold on. Where was I? Just got lost.
He's got his wife there. She's kind of grandmama.
So let's see what's going. So I mean, so far from what I've seen, hold on, let me bring up some of these polls.
I don't like Dr. Oz. Those guys, you guys really don't have a choice. I mean, like Dr. Oz is just a carpetbagger. You know what I mean? Like he's not even a Pennsylvania resident, or I guess he is now. But I mean, I know the guy lived in New Jersey, but like Hillary, when Hillary came into New York, and she wasn't a New Yorker, and nobody in New York wanted Hillary. Not one person ever said, "Yeah, she should be here." You know what I mean? Yeah, it's New York.
So they're saying in the Georgia race, Herschel Walker should be the winner, but we're going to have to wait and see. I don't trust anything right now.
I think that he can pull it off, man. I think that the guy's pretty well balanced. He seems a little bit for sale, but right now I'm on an anti-Democrat thing. Me personally, I've just I've seen too much of it for too long. What they did to Trump when he was president, and he got into the rhetoric. He put himself into the trenches with these people, which he should have never have done. And he sunk down to their level, and that's where he feels comfortable. But the reality is, it made him ineffectual as a leader. Even though a lot of his policies helped us and got us going, but yet in the same breath, they were taking his attention away. Because they wanted power. They wanted power. And what did they want power for? Look what they did. Did you hear Biden last night? We're not going to drill. And he didn't put any new permits out to drill. So you look at that price of gasoline.
But you heard him. You heard him have to back check because everybody forgot about this. So Trump and his slickness, there's a bunch of Gulf ones and a bunch of Alaska ones getting ready to come open. And just nothing Biden can do about them because they were already promised by the former president.
But Biden just said, hey, I'm not going to drill. We're not going to do this. We're going to force you guys to live in this.
And he means it. He's not going to. But unfortunately for him, he got busted on this just yesterday. Unfortunately for him, these leases have to be, they've already been paid for and taken up. Government can't cut them off now. would be too much in lawsuits. It'd cost them too much money. Plus, for Biden to go against drilling on where it's already being paid for, would pretty much he'd get impeached. So I think he's going to have to back down on some of this. And then the Russians, everybody's cutting the Russians off right now, gas wise. So I don't know. We may see a change in that come wintertime in Europe. But right now, everybody's cutting him off. China's over there screaming at him. So Xi Jinping, day before yesterday, got with the German president and said, hey, no nukes. Yesterday, Xi Jinping went on TV by himself and said, no nukes, buddy. I mean, he came down hard. He's like, you can't be launching nukes around. No. I mean, even his number one allies tell him, no, Putin, no nukes, buddy. We'll have to side against you if you launch nukes. Which would be the appropriate thing to do, because if you saw anybody launching nukes, you're in deep shit.
Poor little Putin. No one's on his side.
You know,
I'm on his side as a psychopath, and you have to respect each other. You know what, man? He's off the wall, Putin. He's off the wall completely. He's bounced off. It's a Super Bowl. There's nothing that he's done, in my professional opinion, as a psychopath. There's nothing that he's done that's been effective in that theater of war. Nothing. And it's just nothing but losses. They've got so many losses. They lost more soldiers in this thing with the Ukraine than in some major wars, even in Afghanistan, and even whatever. It's to the point where now they want to overthrow him. There's a group of them now that are anti-Putin, and whatever. I think it's all talk, until it actually happens. But still, dead generals, dead colonels, thousands of tanks blown up. They don't even have enough tanks for this big thing coming up. They're right now. It's in the middle of their what's it called, the October thing. Even though it's November, that the whole war when the Soviet Union formed. So this anniversary is coming up. Was it the 14th or something, right? Is it the 14th? And
I don't know.
I have to go look it up. Real quick. Let me do some updates. And
you're in the Navy. You got to get.
No, hold on. Well, I got these updates on my mind, so let me get these out. Maybe it'll clear it up. So, first updates. This is on the Senate. Current is 36 Democrats and 31 Republicans. The next one update is on the House. 20 Democrats, 50 Republicans.
Wow.
And let's not forget, there are 36 governors up for grabs tonight. Right now, it's currently 6 versus 9, so that's pretty tight. So we're just going to have to see where everything's going. But right now, the Senate's having this. But then I seen 2 polls, one from Real Queer Politics and one from, I think it was Reuters ones, that are saying the Republicans are going to win the Senate 51-49. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes, too. I've seen quite a few of those polls, but you know how polls are. I mean, we know the last 2 years, polls are wrong. First set of polls said Hillary was going to win. Of course, Trump won. And the last set of polls said Trump was going to win. Of course, Biden won. So I'm not exactly sure where these people get some of these polling numbers from, but all right, I know I heard blink, but I don't know where I'm at. So where are y'all blinking at?
The October Revolution was October 25th, 1917, but this is when it all actually fell into place, which is early November, and that's when they think he's going to pull some more stuff. I don't know what he could pull. I mean, they're being shut down everywhere.
It's going to be a little strange. Hey Jay, it's going to be a little on the strange side to see where all this goes, and I'm looking forward. I mean, I'm already seeing crazy numbers. I've got 7 polling sites open. I'm gonna get a couple more open in a few minutes.
It was November 7th. It was yesterday. So he didn't deliver any big package. He didn't do anything, and all the stuff that they've said has been just a bunch of bullcrap. I mean, there's just threats and lies. I mean, you saw what they did to their fleet just with a couple of drones. Drones that don't cost much. Those ships are millions of dollars. Drones are jet skis with bombs, basically, and some sensors. And Elon Musk's,
you seen what we send in. It always cracks me up when people don't realize what America's up to. But so, in case you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, America has designed its own drone killers. Because America knew a decade ago that drones were going to be a problem. You forget we've been using them for 15 years now. The rest of the world's just catching up to us. So we knew these were going to come from. So we invented a couple of different types of rapid fire, large machine guns to take out drones, from big swarms of drones. That's what they're made for. So you can, and they're actually drones themselves. They're drones that hunt drones. I found this really interesting, but they were showing them in action against a swarm of drones. They're badass. So American
people should be frightened because terrorists can use the same method for all kinds of stuff. People should be frightened.
Yeah, well, anybody go buy a $99
the
drone.
technology that's being created and the easiness of reverse design. People should be frightened. Cruise ships, things like that. People should be frightened of this stuff. They need to come up with better technology now.
Well, because what people don't realize, you don't even need to put a bomb or a gun on a drone. So you can take a drone, like that's why they're so incy-skincy when they see them near airports. There's actually supposed to be retrieval squads now, because if you fly a drone up and fly it into, say, a jet as it's taking off its engine and it gets sucked up, that engine's gone. Puff out, adios amigos. It's a good chance that plane's going to crash. If you hit two of the engines, it's definitely going to crash.
Is that the Mexican flight, adios amigos? Or
adios amigos.
Is that kind of
this is an easy way of wiping things out with no expense. I mean, you're talking a $50 drone that you can buy at any department store that doesn't even require an ID to buy it. So they don't even know who the hell you are. You just bought this thing, walked out there, put it in the air, waited till the thing starts taking off, zip it up, zip it over, and boom. It's just godsend that most Americans are decent people, or it could be hell. It's a good thing we don't live in a country that's a disaster all the time. At least most of our citizens wouldn't even think of doing something like this. But in other countries, this is a real threat. And it's a threat here, but it's just more of a threat in other countries.
But you wouldn't believe how stupid people are.
No, I believe it.
I'll show you one of my own personal experiences. When I got into rocketry with my ex's son,
I used to love rocketry.
We were on the flight path for the local airport, So I'm like, these little rockets are kind of small, and you want to go bigger and bigger. And then I'm realizing these things can go way up there, man. There was a plane flying over. That guy must have gotten a thrill. That thing went right past him and came down on its parachute. So but now drones, you're not allowed to fly a drone within X amount of miles of an airport. And all
no, you're
not
not supposed to. You're not supposed to do a lot of things, but that don't keep them doing it.
If they're attacking, they don't care. Of course you're going to do it. You're going to break the law.
Oh, you know what I like? I like these idiots. This guy, so you watching this Shell oil company guy's flying an expensive drone, about $3,000 drone. He's hovering along the water. He's going to start teasing the alligator. But people don't realize alligators can come out of the water 3/4 of the length of their body. So if it's a 14-foot alligator, it can come out the water 10 feet. It jumped up, snatched the drone from there, brought it back, crushed it. You see smoke puffing out the alligator's face all over the place. It just brings it underwater. I was like,
notice my New York story didn't include alligators, man. You see, us
not as good without an alligator involved. Now,
alligators in New York are white. They're scary.
We need Joe for those alligator stories,
right? You see this stick? This is for the Republicans. This is the Democrats.
It looks like a coon-ass stick. What do you call it? Coon-asses?
Damn, man! I got tongue tied on the side.
You see, if that was a real lightsaber, you would just cut your face right off, man.
No, it never touched my face. It just got
your nose would be gone. That's it. Noseless Joe would be.
This is for when I visit Sean, so I can see where he's at.
You'd be the Jedi Knight that cut his own nose off, man. I've never seen that before.
It's that. See, and that shows I'm a true American Star Wars fan. But this shows I'm a true American, which you can't even see it back there, can you? No, look at this sneaky bitch.
Martha. I am too, man. I had Mormons come to the door
Martha's
and I was telling them about the power of the dark side.
Martha says, "Hi, America."
They were listening too.
See, now if this goes out on Twitter, oh wait, that's right, Jack's not there. I won't get banned.
You need guns there. You got alligators, man.
Yes, we do actually. Big ones too.
We don't have to
screw the alligators, man. You better worry about the bears. People up north are like, "You got bears?" Yeah, so we have brown and black bears, man.
Hey,
we ain't got no big ones. So.
Awesome, a Twinkie, they're happy.
Denise, I've only seen a little bit on Pittsburgh so far. We're waiting on polling data. I'm getting ready to pull up some more.
Yeah,
right now the numbers are just starting to trickle in a little bit. Actually, I never realized how many hosts in this network are actually from Pennsylvania. I'm going to have to fire some of these.
You don't, man.
Pennsylvania.
I got like 5. I got almost as many Pennsylvania hosts. I got Canadian hosts, man.
So that means you got to put some kind of thing up there so they can come and listen to our show.
I know, but it's weird, man. Y'all can tell them which shows you're on. It's all throughout the whole night. You tell me time you want. Sean's. Oh, that's right. Sean's on new time now. You're on 2 new times, so you're on 6 to 8 Central starting November 29th, and your show comes down an hour now, right?
Yeah, so that would be...
That's right, so you can actually get some sleep at night.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that.
So that's all the way around better right there. We've moved some shows around for Tuesday night. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. I might give away a lightsaber tonight since we're going to be on for a few hours tonight.
I want one.
I might give away 2 tonight since we didn't give away Roz.
Me and Sean want one.
We didn't give away. We didn't give away Ray's yet, and we didn't give away Qui-Gon Jinn. So that would be yellow and what? I forgot what color Qui-Gon's is.
Qui-Gon's I think was green.
Was it green? Oh man,
so.
we might have to give away Master Lindy.
Green
I
or
want to
blue.
give away a purple one.
That's Mace Windu. He's in. I've got his downstairs.
Yes,
that's a cool.
We have to give away. We might give away a yellow and a purple LSU color since they kicked ass this week. Ooh, Bama! Sorry, Bama. Politics is a bitch sometimes.
So, how long do you think Saban will last down in Alabama now?
Nick's mad right now.
He has like 2 losses down there now.
Yeah, but he's got 7 championships or 8. Ain't nobody getting rid of Nick. But Georgia's tough this year, man. Georgia won a championship last year, beat out Saban last year for it, and now LSU said, "Guess what? We're going to the playoffs, not you, buddy." So
2/3 of voters don't want Biden to run. 2/3.
Wow. Are those Democrats?
You want him to run? I don't want him to run. I don't. You know what? I don't know any Republicans, any Independents, any centrists, or Democrats that want Biden to run. None. Everybody's like, "Who knows?" And then when I say, "Well, who y'all going to run?" Newsom. And at first they're like, "Yeah, Newsom." I said, "Do you really want Newsom to run against?"
They gotta get him out of there.
Yeah, I said, "Do you really want Newsom to run against Trump or DeSantis?" I said, "That's one of the 2 that's going to be running." I said, "Do you think do you think any Democrats currently can beat them 2?" I don't. I'm hoping it's going to be DeSantis. Trump may get it because right now he could win the primary election because he's got the votes to win the primary election. But you never know. DeSantis might get him whooped up. Get enough on his side to change that. As far as anybody else in the country, I don't know any Democrats that currently are doing good enough. Maybe Hochul will run for president. There you go. Especially if she don't make governor, maybe she'll run for president.
If Cuomo didn't mess up, with those young girls, he would have been like the guy out there, right?
Cuomo could have ran, and I don't know if he could have ran for president because I remember Giuliano saying something about they got the goods on him. So maybe not president. Maybe they got some other goods we don't know about besides these young girls, which is just kind of scary thought to think of.
You know what? He's got presence, and I think that he was effective to a certain degree. He wasn't a dippy liberal either. He was kind of balanced. He's what the Democrats wanted as that working class type of figure, even though he's not. You know what I mean? But I don't know. But then he messed up and he's gone. He's still marching in parades, waving at people, and he wants to make a comeback. He must be laughing his ass off about this whole show. I don't even think she knows who she represents anymore either. But you know what? Your pocket and your safety speak paramount to you. If you're afraid to go into the streets, especially in New York City, where you're paying $3,000 for an apartment, because there's psycho out of control people who get no bail, no nothing, and they can attack you, like the one with Paul Pelosi. That guy in New York would have been out on bail. He would have been gone the next day. He would have been in the streets again for hitting somebody with a hammer. You got a guy that pushed somebody in front of a train. The one that knocked out that woman and put her in a coma, they let him out the next day. So, people are afraid. They vote from fear. They vote from their wallets, and they see what's going on. So we'll see what happens. But then you got lame duck Joe for 2 years. What do you do with that?
I don't know what you do with Joe for 2 years. Well, he's not complete. Well, I guess he is.
Yeah, he is.
No, because he can still do executive orders. So, I mean,
do you think that he's really going to survive? You think he's going to take?
No, I think he's going to make it.
Drink the Kool-Aid, man.
Physically, he doesn't look that unhealthy. It's mentally.
You think they're just going to open up the door and let him walk out into the street? And
what's more important, being mentally fit as a president or physically fit as a president?
I think physically.
Mentally, I mean, look at Reagan. He wasn't the most physically fit dude, but when his second administration, he started going mentally downhill. I mean, he was scaring a lot of people, including our own citizens, because they were afraid he was going to inadvertently hit the button.
And think about it, and he's still the most beloved president in the United States.
Right.
But Biden's in cognitive decline. There's a huge difference, and
there's a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, as an effective leader, you need to be a thinker. You need to be, you need to be there, wholeheartedly be there. And he's not. Not even including the junk about his family and his creepy son and whatever. Putting all that aside, just as an effective leader, he just doesn't have a clue. And then Kamala Harris, she's a knock-knock joke with no punchline. You know, she's kind of, she really is. You know, she's just there. And have you like listened to her talk? I think she had an aneurysm or something, man. You know, she's like she can't even form sentences anymore, and she's kind of in and out, and you know, just says the same thing over and over.
I think she actually has a speech impediment from childhood, but besides the fact that they're both, you know, joke worthy, you can see the difference from, you know, the Trump point of view. He's a businessman, and we've seen in the past most of these guys are lawyers, and when you have a lawyer, they don't necessarily think business wise. So you get these Democrats that, you know, they make they make the economy grow up, make everything cost more, and they think that's success, that the country is doing well, that everybody's paying more for everything. And Biden even said the same thing. We're doing better, and we're paying $5 a gallon of gas. You get a businessman in there like Trump, and years ago when we had Ross Perot, he was in, he was out, he was in, he was out, and he ruined the election for whoever actually got in. But had he been in there, we would have seen 20, 30 years ago, having a man with a business mentality, you know, a strong billionaire he was made lots of money through his whole life, would make a stronger economy. So you don't have to be physically fit. You got to be a thinker, and you got to be money wise. You got to be smart money wise. And Bill Clinton was like that. The both Bushes were kind of like that, and Reagan was like that. We had great economies under those guys.
Yeah, but Trump was nuts, and that was an advantage to us because no other leader wants to mess with him.
Attacking him every day.
Kim Jong-un went into a bunker. You didn't hear from him the whole goddamn time. He was gone, man. They thought he was dead. Remember all the stories about Kim Jong-un? Like, does he have COVID? Is he dead? And whatever.
Yeah.
Now he's out there.
His sister said, "Go shit in the corner and shut up until Trump's out of office."
20 rockets in the past week. You know, on top of that, he flew 160 planes at South Korea, making threats against South Korea and us. You know what? I don't know. You need a strong leader with strong foreign policy. Politics aside, you just need somebody who's strong and powerful like that, that no one wants to mess with and understands the true nature of things. But man, not with Joe Biden. This is why Putin chose this time to do it. He saw the weakness and
what Kim Jong-un is doing. All of them started doing this
worldwide. Look at the UK. The UK has, Bojo's gone. The other one was in there 44 days, and she resigned at full pay for the rest of her life. That's kind of interesting. And
what are you talking about?
Yeah, and so I mean, they don't have a leader either. And France, you got Macron who wants to leave NATO, and there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff, man. You need to be, Biden. I'm sure he doesn't know about any of this stuff. They just know where they spoon feed him, right? They should just open the door of the White House and let him wander outside, like into the park next door, down the street. Let's put him on a milk carton, and then that's it. But how are they going to remove him? How are they going to, unless they, he's going to have to make that decision. Yeah, I'm messed up, and that's it. Unless he has some major thing happen to him. And I think that these guys might be a little bit beyond knocking people off. Don't quote me on that. You know what I mean? But
they got to get the right impeachment against him. They impeached Trump twice, but he was not removed from office.
With the Republicans in charge,
you got to remove a president. It's tough. I mean, you got to have 2/3 of the House and the Senate.
If the Republicans take the House,
clause against him.
If the Republicans take the House, the only thing you can
that's why I never understood why Nixon stepped down. They didn't have 2/3 against him.
The only thing you can count on is lame duck.
They had something behind the background.
But 2 years is a long time. We can't continue with these policies for 2 years. People are hurting.
This is what's going to actually happen. If the Republicans win the House and the Senate, this is what's going to happen. They're going to start putting bills together. They're going to put them together fast because they have to get them through. I can't remember if it's 2 times or 3 times, but it's either the second or third time. We don't need the president's signature anymore. They can override his signature. So that's what they're going to try to do. Now, if the Senate is held by the Democrats, that's not going to happen. So you're going to basically have nothing going on for the next 2 years, except for executive orders, which will be challenged by that. But I'll tell you what will happen. If the Republicans can't get the Senate, and they're going to go committee crazy. They've already got a committee lined up to investigate the January 6th committee. They've got committees to investigate what's going on with Hunter Biden's laptop. They got committees to investigate the FBI. They are bringing everybody in. Everybody, they've had it. They said they have had it over the Trump stuff. If the FBI and the government's not going to do anything about Trump, they will. They have just had all of this news media going ape. They want to change the standards in the media that they can't report stuff like that unless they have facts. They can't just go just because a senator says they call him. That's not news. That's
You know something, man? He was one of the most effective presidents in that we've known. I think as someone who went in there and just destroyed ISIS and the things that they did were just in a few months that were done. He put great people in, but then it went too far, and all these people left. They left because they couldn't deal with his crap. You know, Joe, your picture looks very different, man. You know,
Yeah.
do something
I was
different
thinking
with
I was
your
kind of
hair.
cute. What happened there?
I love
What
your
do you do
cute
with your
little
hair?
hearts, Joe.
I know it's you know it's cute.
Your happy face. No coochie shots, Joe. It's a family show. But but the reality is, you know, Trump and his piggery. You know, he's all right. I'll say it like this. I know a guy who was buying a building in New York City that Trump owned with another guy. He's on the phone. They do a teleconference. Trump gets on the phone. He's like, "You're gonna love the building. Just send me the check. You bought it." And he's like, "Well, I want to see it first. You know, like I want to actually look at the building." And the guy had these issues. It was near the UN, but they were putting a homeless shelter like down the street, and he had issues with that and whatever. So he wanted to go in there and look around. Trump's like, "No, you're gonna buy it. If you're gonna buy it, the deal is off." You know, that's what kind of guy he is because he's got so much power. You know, he's got so much thrust. He knows what to do with the power, and that's kind of who you need. You know, is that good for negotiations? I read his book, The Art of the Deal. I mean, he likes to make deals. He's a deal maker. He's not for sale as a billionaire.
He's a good businessman, like I said before. You know, people made fun of him that he had all these businesses that went bankrupt and what have you. Everything that he did by the letter of the law. And for almost all the employees and all those businesses that he tanked, those employees were taken care of through the bankruptcy laws. They they had their severance checks, and it's not like he just kicked them out to the street and be homeless. He did everything by the letter of the law. And yeah, sure. Did he lose a couple of businesses? Yes. But in the long run, from each of those businesses, he made enough money in bankruptcy court to start another business and another and another. So he knows what he knows.
Not every business lasts forever either, you know. And when you're in trial and error, it does happen, you know. So I mean, but those are the naysayers. Those are the naysayers that don't like Trump. So they're going to be all negative when they, no matter what they say is going to be negative. But you got to look at the best thing. You know what? I'll tell a quick story, then you can go, Joe, because this is a great story about Trump. Trump was 13 years old, right? And his father had been called. They're dedicating the Verrazano Bridge that goes over Staten Island from Brooklyn, right? They had just built it. So Trump's there, and this is his story that he told a long time ago before he had any kind of political aspirations, right? He's hanging out and he sees this guy kind of sitting there in the dark, and he starts talking to him. And the guy's like, "You know what? You like the bridge?" He's like, "I built the bridge." And Trump's like, "But you should be out there on stage, not those politicians." He said the politicians on stage didn't want the Verrazano Bridge, but then they are taking credit for the bridge. But the guy who built the bridge is there, and he felt really bad for that guy. And that just kind of tells you that his core, that there's some decency in there somewhere. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't just some story. And he appointed the first female, architect to build the first skyscraper, the first female skyscraper in New York City. So I mean, he's done a hell of a lot. You can't say that about these other politicians because they have not done anything. What really? What was the last one that actually had a job? These people. Yeah.
Like I said, most of them are lawyers. They don't build stuff. They're not business minded.
See, that's something I've been bitching about for a while. The Congress needs to have a rule on what it can have in it. So in the old days, okay, there would be farmers in there, and there'd be fisher people in there. People of all different industries were in there. That was the House and the Senate, especially in the House. The House was really a big mix of different, just everyday Americans, because that's what the House is supposed to be. Senate is supposed to be a little bit more upscale, a little bit different, maybe more Ivy League, but the House is supposed to be me and Sean and Michael and you. That's what the House is supposed to be. But what the House has become is a bunch of freaking lawyers. That's all they do is argue. That's all lawyers do is argue. And they almost always argue to a standstill. They very rarely win. So what's happened over the last 3 or 4 decades in the House and the Senate is they're almost 85% lawyers now. So nothing ever gets accomplished. And you can see the difference. When it was everyday people, things got done. There was bipartisanship. When it became lawyers, there was no bipartisanship. It's bullshit. It's time for that to change. There should be no one group of people should be allowed to have that many issues. Say, okay, the maximum amount of any one group you can have is 10 or 15. There are 500 seats or 480 seats, so you can say maybe 25, but not 350 or 400. then it's not a representation of you and I. It's a representation of the lawyers. Lawyers don't live like the rest of us do. I mean, they have a different mindset and they live differently than we do. But yet they're going to be representing us. That's bullshit. They don't have no clue how to represent us. It's like Nancy Pelosi when people say, "Well, Nancy's representing me." I said, "Yeah, if you got $50 million in a bank, Nancy's representing you. She ain't representing me or anybody else that's got got any money." I said, "No, indeed not." I said, "She is not representing any of us."
It's almost tantamount to having like a second house of legislation that when there's all lawyers.
Well, it is. It's insane. So I mean, it's not designed to be that way. The Constitution didn't expect it to be that way. And it's not designed to be that way. The House is supposed to be a representation of the people. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a big mix. That's why there's so many seats. So it can be a big mix of people, different kind of business owners, everyday school teachers, just a big mix of people who are there to do the right thing and to help the people. Lawyers only helping themselves and their friends. We know what the hell's going on with lawyers. Don't take this wrong. I got several friends that are lawyers, and you know what? They are SOBs. They're good friends of mine, but they still SOBs. And I wouldn't want them against me because they are SOBs. That's what they are. They're wealthy. They're comfortable. They expect their life to be handled a certain way. They expect people to treat them a certain way, and they expect the world to go in a certain way. And it's not the way that you and I expect it to go. We want to live. We don't expect everybody to be a personal slave. I mean, we thought slavery ended in this country 200 years ago. What the hell's going on? So now, and I tell this to people all the time when people get mad at me, it's not about slavery anymore. It's about class. It hasn't been about color in almost 50 years. The media wants to keep it about color because it's easier for them to stir shit. But it's not about color. It's about class. It's not about your skin color. It's about how much money you got in the bank. That's what it's about. Politicians don't look at you anymore and say, "Oh, no," they look at what you got money-wise, because what's happening is blacks that are making 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90,000 have all moved into white neighborhoods. In the South, the projects are going away. They're slowly, but remember, the South contains, the farthest states in the South contains 90% of the blacks that live in this country live in these 4 states.